Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Hang Up here on the line. I'm Matt Dillahunty. Normally, I'd come in with like, here's a whole bunch of news, and here's all the stuff that's going on, and here's what we're going to talk about. And instead, we're in the middle. Well, actually, we're before the fundraiser. The fundraiser that we're doing for Recovering from Religion officially starts this weekend, and yet some of the great folks here at the line, along with your generous donations, have managed to raise over $50,000 towards our 80. Is it? I think the goal is 80,000. Um, we are raising that money already in the hopes that when Friday and Saturday roll around, we can have a lot of fun. We can raise more money, but all the pressure will be off. We won't have to be like, we need you to get out your pocketbooks, give us another dollar, give us another dollar, give us $5, $5, $10, 10. We can just have fun. And, we'll probably still do some of that because getting money for a good cause is absolutely one of the best things we can do. And trust me, we know that times are difficult. Gas prices are up. A lot of people are struggling. And it's one of the reasons why we choose to work with the best organizations that are doing actual work to help people in need. And there's a number of other organizations we'll be talking about as well. So I'm going to set a goal for tonight of just 30 grand. 30 grand during this show, because that gets us to our goal right off the bat and lets everybody have the rest of the weekend to have fun and raise more money too. Here's how it's going to work. I'm going to bring in tonight's guest in just a minute or two, and we're going to chat for a bit. It's Fish Stark, the executive director of American Humanist Association. We're going to talk about several things. And I will reread the following rules just before we start taking calls. This is a call-in show, 720-619-2288, or the link down below will get you here on your browser. We're grateful to everybody who tuned in. And you don't just have to call in about religion. Wednesday night, we also talk about politics. You can talk about recovering from religion. As always, theist callers will get priority. So if you're an atheist, just calling in, talk about how awesome AHA is, talk about how awesome RFR is, or how almost awesome I could have once been. That's probably not going to be good for the show, but we will always put theists at the top of the queue. Here's the donor information for tonight. If you donate exactly $202, $202, that's the hold up a minute bonus. And what that does is it mutes me for 1 full minute. Doesn't matter what I was doing, doesn't matter what point I was in the middle of. The second Arden calls out that we have a 202 donation, that mutes me for a minute. If you stack those up, you might be able to mute me for longer. I don't know if we thought about how to keep track of exactly how many 202s come in, but Arden can handle it all. If you donate exactly $404, that's 404 caller not found, and that mutes the caller for a minute. If you donate exactly $666, that's you playing devil's advocate, and that will mute me for 5 minutes. I don't know if anybody's ever heard me muted for 5 full minutes. Oh, I did something with Daryl the other night where I stayed out of it for more than 5 minutes. Anyway, if you donate exactly $777, and these are, by the way, these are not additions. These are single items. A single donation for 777 so that we know this is what you want. That is divine intervention. And we must drop the caller that's currently on and move on to the next caller. So if you're sitting there banging your head against the desk or your hand, and you're like, well, when will this caller stop? That caller will stop the second you donate $777, or whenever we decide other than that. The final actual numerical amount is $999. That's no. If you donate $999, not $9.99, that will give the caller 5 completely uninterrupted minutes. The only person you can't mute is Fish, because he's our guest. And you can't mute Arden. But they will get 5 interrupted minutes for that $999 donation, provided they do not utter slurs or anything that would get us demonetized. I don't care if they want to talk about flat earth for 5 minutes or give the most banal arguments for Jesus or Scientology or whatever. That's what they get. These are all single donation triggers, not a total, but it does mean that if you're a theist out there and you're like, I'm not calling into that show because they're in charge of everything and it's just not fair, which is, I'm going to say, already a lie. But if you wanted 5 interrupted minutes, you can get that for a single donation of $999. You want 10 minutes? Donate two $999 donations when we get you on the phone, and you'll get 10 minutes. That's 10 uninterrupted minutes. The only thing that anybody will stop you for is if there's a technical issue or you've uttered slurs or done something to get us demonetized. If you want to say Baba Booey for 10 minutes, it's going to make for a crappy show, but it's $1,000 almost for RFR. Also, we're keeping a running total of donations. The goal tonight is that $30,000 that I mentioned. As soon as Fish and I are done talking and we start taking calls, the $30,000 cap or goal starts. At any point, and this is terrifying, at any point tonight, if you donate to reach the 30,000 goal, the show shuts down. We see, thank you, good night, we roll the credits. That means if as soon as we start taking calls and we get on the first caller, somebody donates $30,000, show's over. Best joke ever. I will laugh my fat ass all the way downstairs for a bowl of ice cream, talking about how somebody did an awesome joke to help out recovering from religion. If we've raised $15,000 at any point, or 10, you can do the math. I just picked this as an example. And you're a theist, and you've been wanting to talk. If we're at $15,000, you could donate $999 11 times. That will take us over the goal, which means you will then get 10 uninterrupted minutes, 5 for the final donation and 5 for the one that put us at the goal. And then the show is over. You will be the last, you will get the last word. On my show, you will get the last word, uninterrupted. That just doesn't happen. So I get that, this isn't for everybody. We needed to make it difficult. We needed to make money. And every single dollar that you guys donate is huge and works us towards our final goal. But I know there are some people out there who are surviving and thriving in this economy who absolutely support what Recovering from Religion does and what plenty of other organizations do. There's never been a time where it's more important to make sure that people struggling with religious trauma, people trying to find their way out of religious indoctrination. And by the way, I would say that to some extent that might also include the cult-like MAGA indoctrination that takes place. I got into it with somebody just yesterday where I was citing data, posted graphs and charts, and they're just like, what a shame you can't get out of your echo chamber. And I'm like, yes, I'm the one in the echo chamber, the guy that's, presenting data and getting experts on. Well, when's the last time you had an expert who didn't agree with you? Oh, I'm sorry. I don't judge experts, but whether or not they agree with me. I happen to agree with the overwhelming majority of experts because that's what somebody who's actually data-driven does. So if you find some experts, maybe some experts will call in tonight. Maybe we'll get some experts here that will try to own myself and Fish and show where we're all wrong and stupid and how us woke lefty, blah, 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 queer friendly, whatever, how we're just wrong, rather than our government actively suggesting and stating flatly that we're terrorists and they're going to come kill us. That's the policy. That transgender activists or activists on behalf of trans issues should be considered violent terrorists, and we will find you and we will kill you, was the message that they sent. Whether this is coming from their particular religious views or just the fact that they are hateful bigots who have been terrified by misinformation and by religious indoctrination, I don't know. I don't care. I'd like to find out what the problem is so that we might be able to solve it, because the solutions I thought we had, which was citing data and evidence, don't seem to work anymore. And it's dubious whether they actually did or whether we were only hearing from the people that it worked on. It's figuring out how to change minds is different from figuring out how minds should change, ideally. And figuring out how to change minds changes with the times. And in some cases, it may not be possible. But there are real people out there struggling emotionally, struggling psychologically, and they need help from recovering from religion, secular therapy project, things like that. And there are people out there who are struggling financially. If you're out there struggling financially, just watch, enjoy, learn, and be happy that you are in part a cog in this movement that is hoping to move us forward. That you could be here to participate as secularists got together to actually actively do some good while also being considered terrorists by the government of the United States. So we'll go over the rules again right before we get to the briefly when we get to the caller portion of the show. But please join me in welcoming tonight's guest, the executive director of the American Humanist Association, Fish Stark.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Matt. And I am super psyched to be here, not only to take calls, but to raise some money from Recovering for Religion. And I just kicked it off with $100, and I hope people will keep putting in and eventually get to 30,000 and shut us down.
Yes, that was awesome, and I appreciate that. I chimed in my 50 earlier and ended up, I think I ended up giving it when Jimmy was active. So I could take credit for part of Jimmy's success.
There you go. Which is, you can always do that.
So there's a handful of things we want to talk to before we get to the calls. And I thought we'd start with the American Empathy Project, which you guys just did here at the beginning of May. Give everybody an update on what that was, how it came about, what happened, and the future.
Totally. So for people who are not familiar with humanism and the AHA, humanism is the belief system that says science tells us what's real and compassion tells us what's right. And the AHA, the American Humanist Association, has been around for 85 years, helping build community for non-religious people and helping fight the Christian nationalist right and fight for human dignity and civil rights. And Matt, you were talking about what the hell do we do when we're getting called. You know, there was a line in the report today. It wasn't just about trans people. They were saying violent secular groups are who they should target as part of their counterterrorism strategy. I don't know a violent secular group. In fact, I have a trouble imagining how the secular groups I run into would actually do in a fight. But rather than doing any kind of violence, we spent May 2nd funding 101 different service projects across the country. It was the largest mobilization of humanists and atheists anywhere in America since the rally. So we gave out $100,000 in grants to local humanist chapters around the country to do things like serve meals to families of immigrant kids where the breadwinner has been kidnapped by ICE. Or, you know, in Charleston, South Carolina, secular humanists of the Low Country put together hygiene kits with period products for folks who are experiencing homelessness and living on the street. The Brooklyn Society for Ethical Culture, one of our chapters, held a street fair with free food and art projects to bring together people in the neighborhood. We had folks packing meal kits for food banks. We had people working and volunteering at senior centers. And there's thousands of people turning out in 101 locations across the country. And this is all due to the incredible work of our 250 local chapters around the country. So this is the work that humanists actually do when they come together, right? There's no terrorism, there's no violence. Humanists believe that our highest obligation is to show up and help each other. And in a time where the radical MAGA right is saying, actually, empathy is toxic. Empathy is a sin. This is my favorite. Pete Hegseth's personal pastor, Doug Wilson, goes on a podcast and he says, empathy is a sin because it causes people to abandon God for the sake of the neighbor, which is the best argument for empathy that I've ever heard. So we said, you know what, if they're going after empathy at a time where 80% of Americans say empathy is a core value and they want more, let's stand up for empathy, because as atheists, that's where our morality comes from. It's listening to other people and trying to help them out. So that's what we did, and we're really excited to go back and do it again next year.
Next year, that needs to be a billboard where it just in quotes, empathy makes you abandon God to help your neighbor, put his name, and then just say deal, AHA.
That was the idea.
Yeah.
But rather than putting up billboards, we just went out and helped people. But that is,
Yeah.
to me, it's like this
If you
is
can get a
we're
billboard
talking about
donated.
MAGA needs humanism. Like this
Yeah.
is the sickness of the MAGA right, right? That they think it's somehow cool and tough and macho to be as cruel as humanly possible to people who aren't like them. And the essence of humanism is, if you boil it down, right? Like Kurt Vonnegut said, humanism is about behaving decently without any expectation of rewards or punishments after you're dead. In other words, don't be a dick, not because somebody's going to reward or punish you for it, but because it's the right thing to do. And I think we're seeing, you call it vice signaling now. This,
Yeah.
whether it's Pete Hegseth or Donald Trump or JD Vance, this idea that, like, oh, actually, the way to be a man is to be as much of an asshole as possible to everyone you can find. It's sick.
It's wild. And I watched the support. I'm a former Southern Baptist, a former evangelical fundamentalist Christian who attended Pentecostal churches on occasion, who had relatives in his family who were of a number of different denominations, including Catholics. And then I was also raised that Catholics were Marian saint worshiping heretics so we got all this baggage, and there's all this potential fighting, and there's all this fear mongering about, oh, the new world order and the antichrist and all this stuff that I don't believe in. And yet it almost seems like they're working as hard as they can to deny the truth of reality, to deny their neighbors in need, in order to try to bring it about so they can say, aha, I was right, when that's never going to happen. They'll just destroy all of us in the process.
Right. Well, you get two kinds of Christianity in America right now, right? You got the James Tallarico Christianity that says it's about loving your neighbor, healing the sick, feeding the hungry. And then you've got the Pete Hegseth Christianity, which says, screw all of that. Actually, what Jesus wanted was for us to spend $1 billion a day bombing school children in Iran. Now, no one would call me a Bible expert, but it's pretty clear that the MAGA version of Christianity is just a smokescreen for a lot of people who don't actually care about Jesus. They care about building power for themselves and tyranny and wrapping it up in Christianity. Thomas Jefferson was the guy who predicted this, right? He was like, in every country and in every age, the priest has been the ally of the despot. He knew, that's why we have separation of church and state. People like him knew that there were going to be people who came along and tried to use Christianity as a weapon to force us to, what they're doing now, send more money to billionaires and defense contractors and visit unimaginable cruelty on people so that they could distract us from the fact they're picking our pockets.
Yep. It's so I'm here in Texas, and I was active, on this channel talking about politics and doing things leading up. And when it came down to the primaries and we were deciding between Tallarico and Crockett, Arden and I dug in probably more than either of us ever have on any primary candidate. And we would have been happy with either one of them, despite the fact that we're both godless heathens and they are both theists. I don't really care. I mean, ideally, if there was James Tallarico and somebody who believed all the same things James Tallarico did with the same qualifications, but didn't identify as a Christian, I might lean to the non-Christian individual, unless there was good reason to think that that person had no chance of getting elected, which is something we still have to worry about. But I will say, if James Tallarico and I were to sit down and have a conversation, I think we'd find that we agree on most of the important things, and that I genuinely think he's a good person. And then we would have to have a conversation about Christianity, because he's done some really crafty cherry picking, just like all of the left leaning, it's like, oh, let's focus on turn the other cheek and all this. Yes, but you're advocating for the same label and the same book as the one that says, if a man lies with another man as he lies with a woman, they've committed abomination or deserving of death. You're the same misogyny, all that. You're just ignoring those parts. And so every single one of them is better than their religion, better than their Bible, better than their Jesus or their God. And I'm happy that they're better. I just wish they could recognize they don't need to hang on to the baggage in order to, have some credibility. But at the end of the day, I advocate for freedom, and what I care about is truth and good. And I think, largely speaking, Tallarico is seeking to do good, um, and largely consistent with what I understand to be the truth, except about that God thing.
Well, I think the fight in this country right now isn't between people who believe in God and people who don't. It's between people who believe the country belongs to them, right? The billionaires and the
Yeah,
religious right and the bigots, and the people who believe it belongs to everybody. And on
yeah,
that, like people like us and people like Tallarico are in the same camp. But I'm with you. Like, we also need more people in our community
yeah.
who are actually open and serving an elected office. I think some folks on the stream know, but many don't. My dad, Pete Stark, was the first member of Congress to come out as an atheist 20 years ago. And since then, we still have not broken the barrier of having someone get elected to Congress and being
Yes.
openly non religious at the time they were elected. But Matt, we might this weekend. Can I tell you a little bit about that?
You can. Let me say two quick things.
Yeah.
Loved that your dad came out, and I talked about it a lot. I never actually got to meet him. Was incredibly disappointed that Barney Frank, who was an atheist the entire time, never came out as an atheist till after he was done in Congress, despite being an out gay man in Congress, which was just wild. But tell us about what's getting ready to happen, maybe.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say too, just on that bit of history, after he came out, he got reelected 3 times because people in his district were like, "Oh, that's fine. We don't care."
That's our guy.
And then the last time, he did have somebody run against him who attacked him for not voting for "In God We Trust" as the national motto, and won. I don't think for that reason. That guy's name was Eric Swalwell. And so we know what's happening to him now. So I wouldn't call it karma, and I wouldn't call it cosmic justice, but you don't want to cross atheists too hard. Anyway, so the American Humanist Association has a political and lobbying arm called the Center for Free Thought Equality. It's a separate organization, but they're in the same building. I'm the executive director of both. And because of FEC law and tax law, the Center for Free Thought Equality does some things that the AHA can't. One of the things the CFE can do is it has a PAC. And through the PAC, we endorse and support candidates who are running for office as open humanists, atheists, non-religious, secular people. And this year, this cycle, we're seeing a record number of openly non-religious people run for, and like seriously run for office. The leading candidate in the Democratic primary for governor of Wisconsin is an open humanist, a state legislator we've been working with for years. We've got multiple openly non-religious people running for Congress and who are like serious contenders. And so this weekend, I'm going up to Philadelphia to campaign for a guy named Chris Rabb, who has been in the state legislature for 10 years, is incredibly progressive, is endorsed by folks like, the Democratic Socialists of America and Our Revolution and Track APAC and groups that are standing up against everything from billionaires to genocide. And he is openly non-religious and has been for a long time. If he wins his primary, and this is the most Democratic district in the entire country, so if he wins the primary, he wins the general, he would break that final barrier, and he would be the first person openly as non-religious when they are elected to Congress. So we're starting to see the tide shift. And, it's because people spent decades and decades and decades being like, hey, you can't ignore us. And people, and our community actually started raising money to support candidates who share our values and share our identity. And if you want to learn more about how you can get humanist, atheist, secular candidates elected, because those people also tend to make damn good policy because they do it based on data rather than tradition and abstractions. cfequality.org. It is free to join. We can give you updates on all of the good work that's happening across the country. And it's also where we do a lot of our lobbying, doing things like blocking school vouchers in Kansas and Nebraska, which we were able to help do successfully this year. So if you want to be a part of that, go sign up.
One of my really good friends and I were talking just the other day, and he mentioned that when he first got involved in the community, what he was kind of really hoping for was to find us as find or construct a more unified voting bloc. And what I've learned over the 20 years I've been in the community is that the broader secular community is unlikely to ever truly be a voting bloc, because when you're primary point of the community is, hey, we disagree on this thing, but we can, or we all agree that, this God claim hasn't met its burden of proof, but we have different takes on that. And there are, sadly, I think there are MAGA atheists. Matter of fact, I know there are. Sadly, I know there to be fascist, bigoted, hateful atheists as well. I hope they don't also count themselves as humanists, but I don't get to be the litmus test for humanism or skepticism or atheism or whatever else. You call yourself whatever. But instead of working to turn the broader secular community into a united voting bloc, I think this effort, or efforts like this, for the CF equality, gets us to say, okay, if we can't get everybody in the secular community, let's at least get the people who want to do this working together to see if we can't fundamentally change politics while we still have a hint of a hope of free and fair elections. And that we might already be too late for that based on certain things, especially with the Supreme Court gutting the Voting Rights Act. And then all of the formerly Confederate states are immediately pulling elections and redistricting in order to end any Black support, any Black representation. They're coming after queer folks. They're coming after lefties. They're coming after Black folks. Anybody that's not likely to vote for the MAGA fascists, they're just going to either take them out, encourage them to, unfortunately, in some cases, take themselves out, or legislate. It's just the same as they did with trap laws on abortion. When they couldn't outlaw abortion, they created trap laws to make abortion effectively illegal, even when they couldn't do that. Now they've overturned Roe v. Wade, and now it's up to the states. It's not going to be up to the states for very long. Nothing's going to be up to the states for very long. It's all going to be taken over at the federal level, and you're going to have the ICE Gestapo marching into your town to make sure you don't get to do any of the things you think you have a right to do.
Which is why we got to get organized and why we've got to fight. I mean, and here's the thing, Matt, I'll challenge a little bit the idea that we couldn't have a unified voting bloc, because atheists are more politically unified than Muslims, than Christians of any denomination, than Jews. Like, if you look at that polling on what atheists believe politically, yeah, there are some MAGA atheists, but largely atheists, and especially people identify as humanists, are liberal. And the way that the LGBTQ community, the Jewish community, every minority community, the Black community, the Hispanic community has gotten their people elected to office is they come together and they say, we're going to pool our money and we're going to go and we're going to support the people who are proudly running in our name. And we, collective action is hard with our folks because everything that's like has somebody at the front of the room feels a little bit like church. But at the end of the day, there's a way you build power in America, and it's I go to you and I say, hey, I got some money, you got some money, we both got some time, let's work together. And then when we help get this person elected and we call them, they're going to have to pick up the phone because they know who got them there.
So we're getting ready to go to calls. I got a couple of quick announcements to make. And one of the things I want to mention, just piggybacking off that, I think, a post from Hemant Mehta noting that atheists, the larger atheist community, is more in agreement with the current Pope than current Catholics are.
Wow.
On the subject of, MAGA and wars and stuff like that. This Pope, well, don't get me wrong, Catholic Church is still a criminal organization, needs lots of work, and he should get started on some of that. But generally speaking, I find myself agreeing with the Pope more often than, I don't know, some people I used to work with on shows even, which is wild.
So much for papal infallibility. I mean, that's the thing. It's like if your commitment to a core tenet of Catholicism falls apart the moment the Pope disagrees with you, how much of it was a genuine commitment to Catholicism and how much of it was just trying to find a way to signal your reactionary politics to people? And I'm talking specifically about J.D. Vance, right? I mean, here's the thing. Yep. We've got a bunch of atheists running this country pretending to be Christian, right? Elon Musk, Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, all are people who have made these like very hinky conversions. And I was reading, there's a article, an interview with a guy named Curtis Yarvin, who is like the court philosopher to Peter Thiel, who is the guy who was J.D. Vance's mentor. And he says it. This is in an interview in the New Yorker. You can look it up directly. He's like, I'm an atheist, but we need religion in this country because we need religion to tell those people how to behave. And by those people, he meant black people. He said that specifically in the interview. And so it's these people, they're running a con on us all. They're like, they're not religious, but they're pretending to be religious and pushing religion on people because they want to control people's lives, and they think religion is the best tool to do that. And frankly, I would rather have James Tallarico in every single elected office than like any more of these atheist pretenders running my government trying to use religion to tell me how to behave.
I don't necessarily disagree. I won't call them atheist pretenders because if somebody tells me what they are, I'm just going to go with that. Plus, I don't want to fucking claim them. So maybe they believe in an evil God that they're just unwilling to say. Anyway, I've got some announcements that we got to get through here real quick. In addition to supporting the recovering from religion in this fundraiser here and the good work at the American Humanist Association, I want to point out a number of conferences that are coming up that you can attend in person or online in some cases between now and the end of the year. We got out of the way of conferences because of COVID and because I think there were probably way too many conferences a year. There were a couple of years where I was speaking at a different conference every single month and sometimes two, and never attended a conference as just a guest, except on like two occasions. And usually it was because either my wife at the time or a friend of mine was speaking and I was just going to be there anyway. But June 12th through 14th is the Revival of Reason, a Black Nonbelievers event in Atlanta, Georgia. You can go to blacknonbelievers.org/revival-of-reason-2026. Just Google it, Revival of Reason, Black Nonbelievers, you'll find it. On July 11th, this isn't an actual conference, but it is a get-together with a couple of my friends, one of whom I got to eat breakfast with just the other day. Seth Andrews and No Illusions are going to be in Cincinnati, Ohio on July 11th. You can go to sethandrews.com/Cincinnati for more information about that. On July 12th is the Ark Encounter Protest 10th anniversary, and they're doing a fundraiser on June 6th to help fund the free event in Williamstown, Kentucky. You can go to www.arkresistance.com. On July 31st through August 2nd, you can go to NanoCon at the Montgomery Bell State Park in Tennessee. Nanocon.rocks is the route to get there. And by the way, I'll be there. I'm doing an entire evening magic show. Fish will be there. Arden will probably be there. We'll see. And so will a bunch of other people. It's one of my two favorite conferences of the year. And I'm not only doing an evening magic show, they're looking at the possibility of getting somebody in to debate. That has all fallen through. Everybody ducks and dodges and says no. And, I'd really want to, but, but I probably will end up doing some workshops and helping out with a couple other things around there. And I will be there just apart from the magic show, mostly to hang out and have fun with everybody. August 21st to 23rd is BajaCon in Sarnia, Ontario. It's bajacon.com. I don't have a passport, so I couldn't go even if I wanted to. And I won't be getting a passport until my partner has one. And on September 19th, the American Humanist Association is having the online AHA Con 26. That you can go to American Humanist Foundation and find more information about that. That's September 19th. October 23rd through 25th is the Rocket City Reason Conference in Huntsville, Alabama. You can go to rocketcityreason.com. And from November 28th to December 6th is the Black Nonbelievers SeaCon, which is a Black Nonbelievers cruise event. And you can go to bnseacon.com for more information about that. And now I turn it over to our producer in charge of everything, Arden, who's got all the information you need on something else.
Yeah, I just wanted to pose a little extra game on top of the rules Matt's created to make tonight interesting and to help you guys, encourage you guys to donate a lot. We've got some amazing new tools thanks to Jimmy's hard work behind the scenes to make this a much more engaging fundraiser. And I get to keep track of the donations between two windows of time much more easily. So I think it'd be really fun to see which of our callers tonight can help generate the most donations for RFR. I think our first caller is maybe not quite MAGA or a Christian or anything like that, but usually the momentum starts to catch us into some more spicy calls. So I think we should do like a on your mark, get set, go before we start the call. And then I want you guys to send, it doesn't have to be a lot of money. $5, $10, whatever you're willing to give, any extra change that you have in your pockets really goes a long way for causes like this. And it's worth mentioning that we've already raised over $300 for RFR just since it's begun. But I think you guys can totally blow our goals out of the water for tonight. So yeah, let's try to make each caller as big of a donation throughout that call to RFR as possible.
I don't want to hear any complaints about how, well, I already donated to Jimmy Snow and Joe Vaughn and they did this other stuff. Yes, there's more to give. If you've got it and you don't need it and somebody else does, I just got a big argument with somebody recently about how just merely being a billionaire, and I don't mean that in actually owning and just having $1 billion. It's a colloquialism for extreme wealth, is itself fundamentally immoral. And there were a number of examples that I gave, including an example that I got from Arden, which she got from somebody else, which is if Taylor Swift has 10,003 doses of a vaccine and she gives away 7,000 of them, she still has 3,000 doses she cannot possibly use. And when you are hoarding resources and there are people still in need, I find that to be fundamentally immoral. So I love the hell out of some Taylor Swift, and congrats on her for earning and everything else. But she has wealth and she does amazing good with it. But she could do more. And she's definitely holding on to more in some ways. And I'm not beating up on Taylor. That's probably the last time I'll mention her, other than she's a shining example of somebody who I really like and who I think really does good, and yet still has one little thing. You know who's worse? Elon Musk. You know who's worse? Jeff Bezos. These people with 12 houses, with helicopters that are launching off their second yacht from somewhere else around. These individuals are the ones that we need to be going after because they are resource hoarding. And when I see somebody standing out on the street corner with a sign begging, I'm reminded of one of my relatives who think that everybody who's standing out there doing that is just too lazy. They were too lazy to do anything. They couldn't pull themselves up by their bootstraps. They were just too late. They don't want to work. Don't give them money. They'll just spend it on drugs. And I'm like, if they're out there on the street and I give them money and they go use it for drugs and that makes their life just a little bit brighter, cool. I would rather fix the solution or fix the problem so they don't have to do that. But my God, I think I'd want to get baked if all I had to do was lay on the pavement underneath an overpass in downtown Austin because it's just warmer here than it is in Oklahoma. All right, here's the reminder of the rules, and then we will jump into calls. So pick up the phone. Lines are open, 720-619-2288, and you can also go down below, and there's a link to call in studio where you can call in. Theists are going to get priority. MAGA will get second priority after that. Yes, MAGA needs humanism, or a lobotomy, or when the hantavirus comes through, maybe some ivermectin instead of. Anyway, you can donate at any time, starting now. $202, and that's the hold up a minute, which mutes me for a minute. $404 is caller not found. That mutes the caller for a minute, and Arden will handle that. $666 is devil's advocate, and that mutes me for 5 minutes. 777 is divine intervention and forces us to drop the caller and move on to the next caller. And if there's not a caller, then Fish and I just get to talk. Or actually, Fish will get to talk. I might be muted. And $999 is the no, and that gives the caller 5 full uninterrupted minutes. So if you're a caller that feels you've been mistreated, there you go. Find yourself $999 and completely school us. And if anybody takes us to the $30,000 goal for just for this hour, you end the show starting now. I'm going to wait just a second to see if like a $30,000 donation comes in. I do not see it. Here we go. You ready, Fish?
I'm ready to go. Let's take some calls.
First up is Craig. Craig's an atheist, friends are him from somewhere in the USA, and wants to talk to us about humanism and influencing MAGA people. So welcome, Craig. You're on with Fish and myself.
What's up, free thinkers? Thank y'all for this fundraiser. As they said, do donate. I do want to start off by thanking Fish and Matt for their decades of advocacy for those of us who are recovering from religion or who are liberal-minded people seeking to enrich ourselves and defend our rights through reason. I'd actually wanted to start this call off with somewhat of a friendly question in essentially asking about your tagline as to MAGA needing humanism and what you guys mean by that. Whether it's like trying to serve as an example through our work or convert them into not being dicks or something, and kind of how we might go about that. Like, counter argument that I would have is that we should, rather than trying to teach them anything, it would be better to focus efforts on like kind of defending our rights and in making coalitions with those who are already receptive to rights-based ethic and to humanistic ideals. And so for me, mentally, I also do have examples of like MAGAs trying pseudo-humanism, such as like the so-called Make America Healthy Again, and in kind of some unchallenged, nice-seeming new ideas that kind of are essentially were their attempt and perhaps are their attempt to co-opt humanistic family ethic rather than doing something that's generally pro-human. And so I wanted to learn more about what you mean by the tagline and whether there is anything to teach these people as opposed to trying to reach and coalition build with those who are receptive and more effectively defend our rights.
Craig, I think we can walk and chew gum at the same time, right? Every social movement in American history, in world history, has succeeded by doing three things. Number one, get together with your allies. Number two, identify the people who are your opponents and oppose them. And number three, convert some people from their side to yours. We got to do all three of these things if we want to defeat the authoritarian movement in America. And so, yeah, we got to find common cause with people who have humanist values. And as a humanist, I believe two things, right? Number one, I don't believe people have fixed natures. I believe people can change. And number two, I don't think you judge people by their group identity. I think you individuate, right? When I lived in West Virginia, I knew people who voted for Bernie and then went and vote for Trump because their whole family was coal miners. And Hillary said, we're going to put a lot of coal miners out of business. And Trump stood and he said, we're bringing coal back. And they were, I mean, it didn't turn out that way, but they believed they were voting their economic interests and they didn't think he was serious about the racism. I disagree with that decision. I think that was wrong and I think it hurt a lot of people. I don't think somebody who made that decision is fundamentally someone that we cannot reason with and have a conversation with. I do think there are some people in MAGA who are deeply committed to the idea that some people don't matter and that it's their job to impose their will on the world. But like I said, as a humanist, you have to look at people for more than their group identity, understand what they believe, and as somebody who wants to win, we gotta win some people over. And ultimately, I also think the best way to win people over sometimes is like people on the right are starting to get sick of the performative cruelty. There was a New York Times interview with a bunch of people who voted for Trump. 3/4 of them said they regretted that vote. You have got people who are saying, I was misled. I thought this was something else. I thought I was right. And now I'm changing my mind. And part of what we can do is, in the face of all that cruelty that they're getting sick of, and they're like, this isn't what I wanted. This isn't worth it. Show what a humanist country would look like, which I think is a country where we respect our neighbors, where we treat people with dignity, and where we try and make decisions based on what we understand in the world, not trusting weird conspiracy theories or ancient books. So I think you're right that there's more to do than just, whether be humanist to MAGA people or try to convince them. But I also think we can do more than one thing at once. I don't know, Matt, what do you think?
Well, when I first saw the topic, and to be fair, the topics are there to try and, like, Arden put that one together. And so maybe Arden would have to answer exactly what she meant. But for me, when I see MAGA needs humanism, I think that's talking about what they need. That's completely separate from what you seemed to be talking about, Craig, which was more like strategy. How do we get there? What does it take to convince them of this? And I think that one of the first steps to potentially changing some of their mind is to do what we're doing here, which is for me and Fish and anybody else to stand up and say, hey, the people who are currently in MAGA, they claim a particular religious idea. And I don't care. I'm not going to get into the no true Christian fallacy, the no true Scotsman version, or the no true Christian version of the no true Scotsman fallacy. There we go. Because I don't get to decide who is or isn't a true Christian. And you could call yourself a humanist. All I can do is evaluate whether or not your views and your actions are consistent with what I would view as the values of humanism. But what I can do is I can say that Christianity is absolutely inferior to humanism when it comes to building a better world. All versions of Christianity, including the ones I like from James Tallarico, because they have extra added baggage that goes above and beyond humanism. Humanism was originally created in the first edition of the manifesto as a secular religion. And the language was being used at that time specifically because we needed to make sure we had religious freedoms extending to people who who were not part of some organized existing religion. Buddhists had to fight for recognition. Scientists had to fight for recognition. I think they should have lost. They've already been kicked out of other countries as not a real religion and just a money cult. Oh no, I'm a suppressive person. Come at me. But it's the strategy is difficult, and you're going to reach different people in different ways. And I think the best ways to do it are to describe it, to model it, and to call out those things that are consistent with it and inconsistent with it. And the reality is the lying, the parade of let's populate my entire cabinet and with people who aren't experts, who don't value human beings, who seem to support authoritarian and fascist things which are inconsistent with humanism, who are okay with lying, with felonies, with starting wars, with taking away individual liberties and freedoms, and declaring its own citizens exercise of their First Amendment rights to make them violent terrorists. You know, when humanism does take over, you're not going to be labeled a terrorist unless you're doing things that are consistent with the normative definition of terrorist. Just because you disagree doesn't make you a terrorist. Just because you hate something or love something that we don't hate or love doesn't make you a terrorist. This is absolutely fear tactics, and religions exploit fear tactics. They exploit our inner fears and the fears that they inject us with. And I think that if humanism can be labeled as anything in that realm, it's that we're not relying on fear. We're trying to end fear by appealing to facts and empathy. And if people can't get that, I'll try and explain it to them again. But if they think they have a superior way, if you're sitting out there right now, whether you're MAGA or not, whether you're a generic Christian, Hindu, Muslim, Scientologist, whatever, if you think you have a moral view that is demonstrably superior to that of humanism, that leads to a better world, call in and defend it right now, because I gave up God for good, both doing good and probably forever, at least until somebody comes up with some evidence that I should engage in that. I embraced humanism because I found it to be the best system currently out there that has been codified or represented by anybody. Does that mean humanism's perfect? No. I will drop humanism for a new label the instant somebody shows me it's actually better. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yep. And here's the thing. Shame doesn't make you a better person. Fear doesn't make you a better person. One of the things I love about humanism is it's not just a statement about what is true. It's a theory of change about how people become better that's based in actual psychology and understanding of how people work. The problem that I have with so much of religion is that it tries to motivate people to become better through shame and fear, and that doesn't work. It doesn't work, and it's harmful to people, and I think it's cruel. I think it strips people of their dignity. Whereas what humanists recognize is not just something that we think. This is true. This has been tested and proven by psychologists, and if you've had a good therapist, thank a humanist, because psychologists like Carl Rogers and Abraham Maslow and Ben Spock, all of them were humanists. Humanistic psychologists figured out that the way to help people become better, and I think this works in politics too, is rather than shame them for the things you don't like, help them come up with a positive image of who they want to become, and then help them try to achieve it. And so I think, again, when we're talking to MAGA people, it has to be, hey, is this really who you want to be? Is this ridiculously cruel and stupid country is spending $1 billion a day to bomb school children in Iran really what you want your country to represent? Is that what you want to vote for? Is that what you want to attach your name to? And I think you'll find a lot of people can't deal with that cognitive dissonance. And that's when we say, oh, so you have some questions. Look, we've got a whole nother thing we believe, and the door is wide open. And part of the reason we have to be loud is because Christian nationalism is the least popular part of the MAGA agenda. Like, very few Americans actually support Christian nationalism. There are 80% of Americans support the separation of church and state. Even a majority of Christians oppose Trump's fake anti-Christian bias commission. Because people are like, this is not what I voted for. I voted for lower gas prices. I voted for lower home prices, whatever. And ultimately, if we can put the focus on how these morons running our country right now are focused more on making your kid pray in school than putting more money in your pocket and keeping gas from going up to $6 a gallon, that's when people will start looking around for something different. And nobody knows those arguments better than us watching this right now. And if somebody thinks I'm wrong about this, I hope they'll call in. But I would love to talk about how MAGA ultimately is destroying the things we ought to be able to count on in this country, and how when we have a humanist government, we're going to be able to build something. And we're not just going to be able to build something better, but while they are going out saying they will find us and they will kill us, when we're in charge, we are building a country for them too. We are going to build something that works for everyone, because that's what humanists do. You don't have to, if you disagree with us, if you see the world differently than we do, we're not going to throw you in the pit of hell. We don't believe you should be tortured for believing a different thing. We believe our job is to take care of everyone. We don't have to like them. We don't have to agree with them. But that's our highest obligation as humans.
Thank y'all. That's quite the reason. Yeah. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for me. But as I said, I wish y'all the best of the fundraiser show, what have you. And thank you again for the work that you're doing both here and.
Okay.
Dude, thank you.
Thanks, Craig. Appreciate it. Hope you got the answer you're looking for. If you didn't get the answer you're looking for, the number is 720-619-2288. There's also a link down below. This is a big opportunity tonight. We have lines open right now. The call screeners are in there working. Theist will go straight to the top of the queue. And you have a great opportunity to donate tonight to shut me up. You can donate enough, you can shut me up for the rest of the night for sure. I was tempted to do like if you donate a 300,000 thing, I'll just quit forever, but I can't do that. And like it's worth more to me to keep doing this than $300,000. But that would be awesome.
If somebody donates $300,000, I'll take my shirt off. How about that?
You donate $400, I'll take my shirt off. You can see my scar. It's all good. I don't think it's necessarily worth that, but we'll see what's going on. Here's the thing. I know that the title today says MAGA needs humanism, and I think they do. I think they're not going to call. I think you're not going to get MAGA defenders, just like we have a harder and harder time getting theist defenders. As a matter of fact, the individual that I got in the argument with about MAGA was an apologist that fancies himself as a debater, and didn't bother debating, just did the, granted, I called him an idiot because he was. But I also presented data. See, I'm not just dismissing him with an ad hominem attack. I'm attacking his character as I assess it while providing the data that should potentially change somebody's mind, which isn't the tactic that I use in debates to start off with. You got to really get somewhere to push me. But on social media, if you're posting, excuse and support for fascists, who want to label me and the people that I love and care about as if we're terrorists and say they're going to kill us. Um, the gloves are off now, and they have been for a while, because it's one thing to get this wrong in 2016 and 2017 and 2018 and 2019 and 2020 and all the way up to still be getting it wrong. By the way, for all of you who voted for lower gas prices, how are those gas prices? For those of you who voted for fewer wars, how are those wars? For no new wars, how are those new wars? If you voted for affordable housing, congratulations. The economy in general is tanking enough that, for example, a homeowner like myself, my home is now worth less than it was than when Trump started, which is great if you're buying. The problem is, if you're buying, you have even less money. You cannot have this job loss and the making food so expensive people can't afford it. Instead of, he tried to run on affordability like he was someone who just learned the word that day, because he did.
And my fiance and I are trying to buy a house, but the truth is, for my generation, like, people can't afford the houses they grew up in, even if they did the same jobs their parents did. There has been so much inflation in the housing market because frankly, the Republicans and the Democrats let Wall Street into the market to buy up a bunch of housing, and the Trump and MAGA promised to do something about it and did absolutely nothing about it. And Matt, I kind of wonder if the reason we're not getting MAGA callers is because they all regret it. And they're a little bit scared to try and defend it because they know they can't. I mean, if someone wants to defend this administration, if they think they can, they should call. And honestly, if you're a MAGA person who regrets your vote, you should call and tell us why. Because I would love to hear from someone like that. I love it when people admit they're wrong.
I'd at least thank you for acknowledging it. Yeah. Hey, we do have another caller. We have a theist on the line here. Let's go ahead and bring in Jeremiah from Tennessee. Jeremiah's theist and has a question for us about the future of humanism. So, hey, Jeremiah, you're on with HOSTility and myself. How are you?
Hey, good. Thanks for having me, Matt. I appreciate it.
Sure. How can we help?
I was just listening. I just happened to scroll past when you guys were talking about humanism, how it's so scientifically validated, etc. I was just curious specifically about the future of humanism, because I know 10 years ago I identified as a humanist. I no longer do, and that's largely because of the huge changes we've seen in what it takes to be considered a humanist.
Wow.
Why'd that change for you, Jeremiah?
I'm going to let Fish deal with this, but I have questions after.
Tell me more.
Well, I mean, do you want to go through the things that have changed from the humanist perspective in the last 10 years? Matt can probably name more than I can. I mean, you can look at some of the biggest mainstream social issues currently were not previously considered an element of humanism. Now they are.
Well, here's the thing, man. I've studied the history of humanism from the time they wrote the initial manifesto in 1933 to the Enlightenment philosophers who were humanist. The thing I love about humanism is we actually believe a lot of the same stuff that we believed in 1933. We've just taken the philosophy and updated it to respond to modern problems. So I guess my question is, what do you think has changed about humanism? Because I see it as being a constant.
Well, I mean, 10 years ago, when I was not a theist, I identified one thing I saw a lot of humanists pushing was anti-genital mutilation in Africa, etc. I mean, even anti-circumcision. Those are things that humanists were pushing 10 years ago, and it seems not to be the case anymore.
I'm wondering.
I think there's a large number of issues when it comes to like the LGBTQI2S plus movement. We've seen literally with every letter added on something else that humanists are advocating for, right?
Well, because humanists advocate for a world where people have self-determination and can be themselves, right? And that goes back to like
but that was true 10 years ago, but they weren't advocating for LGBTQI2S plus. And with every addition to that acronym, it pushes people like myself further and further away.
Why? Yes, why is that hard for you?
Why is what hard for me?
What's the problem?
To my moral beliefs that I'm expected to uphold.
No.
Because
Yeah,
there were
This
previously
was
very few
Jeremiah.
moral requirements beyond looking out for the good of humanity.
Jeremiah, can you hear me? Jeremiah, can you hear me? I just want to jump in.
Yeah, can you?
Adding something doesn't mean we've changed the core value. It means we've expanded the number of things and the labels and categories of things that are included within that. When we talk about individual freedom and autonomy, that is a foundational view in humanism. And when we talk about LGBTQIA plus, whatever it is that becomes your stumbling block, that should have always been included. We're just recognizing that we didn't explicitly acknowledge it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not. I appreciate your input on this. I really do appreciate the things that you have to say. I don't mean to push this specific LGBTQI2S plus issue. We could talk about other things like immigration, etc. The issue.
No, you did. Let's just stick. Let's just stick there for a minute.
Sure,
because
let's stick to it then.
Because
hang on.
Can you not hear me? Can you not hear me when I'm saying because and I'm trying to get a clarification? Are we just going to keep talking all over each other? Can you not hear me when I'm talking?
I'm happy to hear you talk. Yeah.
That's not what I asked you. I'm saying I was literally trying to interrupt you for the last 2 or 3 sentences. Were you unable to hear me? Do we have an audio problem?
I didn't hear you when you were trying to interrupt me, if that's what happened.
Okay. That's what I was trying to find out. So thanks for that answer, Jeremiah. Yeah, we can stick on this because you said you were a humanist. That was before you became a theist. I'm sorry that you are no longer a humanist.
Yeah, just specifically, I was a transhumanist, but I consider that squarely in line with.
Okay, transhumanism isn't humanism, so you haven't the first clue what you're talking about. Transhumanism is not humanism.
I know that there's a technology component to transhumanism, but
actually you don't, Jeremiah. Actually, you don't, Jeremiah. I'm literally here with the executive director of the American Humanist Association and as someone who's advocated for and studied all 3 of the humanist manifestos so that I know which my preferences are in each one of them. Transhumanism has nothing to do. I don't know why you're trying to talk over me and interrupt me. It's never going to happen. I'll donate $404 in a second to shut you up so I can finish my thought. Transhumanism has nothing to do with secular humanism, which is what we're talking about. I'm sorry that you've given into bigotry and theology. We're happy to talk to you about the humanism thing. So let's do that.
And my question, Jeremiah, is hold on, Jeremiah, hold on. My question is, what was it about? At what point did you feel you had to leave? What was the specific letter that got added to the acronym where you felt you had to leave? What was too much acceptance for you? That's the thing that I don't get, man. Is like what? At what point, let me finish. If at one point you considered yourself a humanist, which has always meant extending dignity and extending the right for people to live their lives on their own terms to every person, regardless of who they are. At what point did you say, no, not that type of person? That's too much. I don't get where that broke for you.
I'm happy to explain. Can I have a paragraph
I'm here to listen
talk here without getting interrupted?
Oh, hang on. No, I'm sorry, Jeremiah. I'm going to mute you because amongst all the other things, whiny little shits who pretend like they're being treated unjustly, because we interrupt for clarity and because we're not going to let you go on and on with things that aren't true and misrepresentations like pretending that you being a transhumanist meant you were a humanist. Those things deserve correction. And we tried desperately to interrupt as politely as possible, and we'll continue to do that. But when we're done, as Fish clearly was, when he left space for you to address the question that he asked, and just so that you don't pretend that you forgot it, the question was, what made you leave? What was a bridge too far for you to also be willing to care about those people? We don't need if I can finish without whining. It's never, ever, ever going to work. And I suspect, as you are at least a one other time caller, you already know that's not going to work. So I'm going to unmute you. All we need you to do is answer Fish's question so we can move the conversation along. It's really not that difficult. What made you leave humanism, which I don't think you were a part of humanism, because you said you were part of transhumanism, but if you were also a secular humanist, what made you leave? What was caring too much about the wrong people? That's the question.
If I'm sticking to the LGBTQIA2S plus specifically, even though it's a large number of issues, It was when humanists began contradicting their previous advocacy. For example, genital mutilation. It became something that we now support and encourage, and that was
No, it's
it.
not.
That was too much.
No, it's not.
I'm sorry. Are you calling people's personal decision to change their bodies genital mutilate? Are you conflating people's choice to change their bodies with somebody forcibly mutilating somebody's genitals? Because it's not a contradiction.
Children, I think everyone is acting forcefully upon them because
I'm sorry,
they need
Jeremiah.
No,
they're not
I'm
able
sorry.
to make
I'm sorry,
permanent decisions
Jeremiah.
like that.
Hey, Jeremiah, I'm sorry, but we found another area where you don't have the slightest clue what you're talking about. So first of all, the humanist opposition to genital mutilation was forced genital mutilation, both of men and women, although they didn't talk about
For
boys
children,
quite as
though.
I'm sorry. I'm still
Genital
talking, and that's clearly too damn difficult for you. So just sit there and be quiet until I'm done, and then I'll bring you in because you are incapable of having an actual honest conversation back and forth. You tried to do an equivocation fallacy between transhumanism and secular humanism, and now you're trying to do another equivocation fallacy between forced routine child circumcision, forced genital mutilation for religious purposes, all of which violates the individual's autonomy. You are doing a false equivocation fallacy of that with the autonomous, individually directed support for gender transition surgery, et cetera. The surgery that you're trying to object to by going into, but children does not happen. Here we go.
I mean, it clearly does. There are lawsuits that have been won by minors who had their breasts or genitals cut off, and we see a huge backlash.
I'm sorry, Jeremiah.
This forced a lot of people away from humanism.
Jeremiah, were those people consenting and with the approval of their parents and doctors? Yes or no?
I don't think that children can consent to something like that.
I'm sorry.
Absolutely
That's
not.
I'm sorry.
Abused.
It's absolutely cartoonish how dishonest you are in argument here, because I specifically phrased my question knowing that there are limitations in what a minor can in fact consent to, but parents are guardians of their children, and all of these. Well, I'm sorry. I don't know why you're okay. I'm going to mute you again because you are absolutely incapable of doing this. In all of those cases, was this the individual's wish supported by their legal guardian under the supervision of properly trained medical experts? Yes or no?
Parents who should be in prison and
I'm sorry, yes or no?
Admitted they
I'm
made
sorry.
a mistake.
Okay, hold on,
I'm going
Jeremiah.
to mute you, and when I bring you back, you're going to answer yes or no to my yes or no question, because you now have to be treated like a kindergartner because you will not engage honestly. It's equivocation fallacy after equivocation fallacy. It's trying to stomp over stuff and reframe things according to your lies, your misrepresentations of what's actually happening. And if I have to, I'll call in an expert in a minute. But here you go. I'm going to unmute you. Yes or no, in the circumstances that you're talking about, was this the desire of the individual supported by their parent legal guardian under the supervision of recognized medical experts? Yes or no?
I don't know.
Then you shouldn't be speaking about it. You should have just said, I don't know, instead of pretending like you did.
Specifically about the case that I know of, which it did involve the consent of the parents who should be in prison. It involved doctors who have admitted they made mistakes.
But Jeremiah, you're now imputing an opinion that nobody has ever. You are saying that humanism changed its mind. Humanism has always believed that people should be able to make their own decisions about their bodies. You don't believe that. You believe that people's decisions about their bodies should be governed by you, apparently. And I'm sorry, but you're entitled to that bad opinion. But that's not what humanism has ever believed. Humanism has consistently believed in bodily autonomy ever since. It goes back farther than this, but for instance, we were the first national membership organization to endorse the right to an abortion. And frankly, I think it's juvenile, and I think it's really sick to compare people making a wanted change to their body with someone who is held down and forcibly has their genitals cut against their will. That is a conflation that minimizes all of the abuse that those people go through by comparing it to someone who changes their body into what they want.
So I'll bring you back, Jeremiah, and you can continue down your path of bigotry and ignorance and lies. But I'm going to bet, are you also opposed to adults making this decision for themselves?
Am I opposed to it? Like, I think it's a good decision, or do I think it should be legal?
Do you think it should be legal? Nobody cares whether you think it's a good idea.
Oh, I think it should be legal because those people are better off, being weeded out of the gene pool. But no, I don't think it's a good idea. And
wow.
What a way to talk about
Jeremiah,
that, man.
Confusion.
Why don't I'm getting ready to give you the biggest microphone in the world, Jeremiah. Why don't you list the other people who you think need to be removed from the gene pool?
I don't think anyone needs to be removed from the gene pool, but people who
no, sir, no. You literally are now contradicting yourself. You literally contradicting. You're literally contradicting. I'm sorry. Are you stupid as fuck? You literally just contradicted yourself by saying those people need to be removed from the gene pool. So I'm asking you to make your list. Here's your opportunity, big boy. Step up and make your list. Step up and make your. You're a fucking liar.
You said they should be removed from the gene pool, man. We both heard it.
You said they needed to be removed from the gene pool. So I'm going to give you your opportunity right here as we as we raise money for recovering from religion, so that people can maybe escape the bigoted lunacy of what you're engaged in, because you evidently went from an atheist to a theist. And boy, would I love to find out what evidence you have for that justification, because I think you're going to be a great spokesman for humanism by giving your reasons for abandoning transhumanism in order to be anti-trans in your bigoted religion. But first, I need you to make a list of the people other than trans folks who you think need to be removed from the gene pool. Help us out here.
Well, I don't think trans people should be removed from the gene pool.
I'm sorry, but you said they did. I'm sorry, but you said they did. I'm sorry, Jeremiah, you said they did.
You want to roll back the tape and why don't you roll back the tape and listen to what I actually said instead of wasting all of our time on this, Matt?
Okay. Hang on. In what
roll back the tape. Let's listen to it.
I am rolling it back. I'm going to let you talk to Fish.
And actually,
Matt
wasn't muted at the time. I said right after that I prayed for trans people.
Matt, we can hear your stuff.
Absolutely.
Matt's rolling it back. Matt, we can. So Matt's rolling it back. Jeremiah, I'm confused.
Oh, you guys could hear me?
We could hear what you were playing. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I thought you couldn't.
You are all good. Did you fact check Jeremiah? What did he say?
Not yet. It was too much noise from both of them.
That's all good. Let me tangle with him for a minute. Jeremiah, so I'm confused. You left humanism because, explain it to me one more time.
Okay, the key thing, Jeremiah. Oh, your name. Is
no,
your name?
I'm
no,
Fish. You're Jeremiah.
Gosh, I wonder who's lying about their name.
So, well, no, it says Jeremiah under his name, so I didn't know if it was him. I just looked to the screen because I didn't know this gentleman's name. But the key thing is not even specific to the LGBTQI2S+ stuff. It is contradiction. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I literally saw humanists leading this cause to stop child genital mutilation in Africa, and I strongly agree with that.
You haven't named a single contradiction.
Contradict that.
You haven't named a single contradiction. We still support ending child genital mutilation in Africa because it is wrong to force people to change their bodies. Wait,
by a doctor
it's wrong.
To destroy them.
Wrong.
That should never happen.
What? You are conflating two different things, man.
Stopping doing it because it's so wrong.
Okay,
Jeremiah,
I'm sorry. I know I'm the producer, but it feels like an obligation to come in here with actual data because he's actually spreading just blatant lies about this. So in one of the most recent, most comprehensive studies on this from the Journal of the American Medical Association that used insurance claim data, right? So these are the people who have the highest degree of access to care. This is also the best kind of data to get for epidemiological research, which is like the rate at which certain incidents of conditions or treatments happen. They found that it was 2.1 per 100,000, which if you want to do the math on that, that's like 0.0021% of the total population. has been receiving any kind of transgender surgery from 15 to 17, and the vast majority of those, with like a couple of exceptions, were top surgeries. And in order to get them cleared by insurance, that has to be confirmed between multiple mental health professionals and an insurance agency and the surgeons themselves to be determined to be medically necessary. So Jeremiah is just flailing on his fucking complete misinformation, has no idea what he's talking about. And right now, you guys should be donating to RFR in this guy's name. I think right now you could raise a bunch of donations to say, fuck this transphobic moron who doesn't know anything about trans healthcare. And and also fucking genital mutilation.
I
Also,
definitely
I
would
think-
like to have a bunch of people leave Jeremiah's religion. Matt, did you get the tape back?
I think so. I've got it on my phone. I've tried it. The problem is it's live. So going back to number of minutes. Let me check here real quick. And all of these.
Guardians
I'm
allow
sorry.
that, and they
I'm
should be
sorry.
in
I don't know
prison.
why you're. Okay, I'm going to mute you again because you are absolutely incapable. Okay. Somehow or another, that didn't work. So here we go.
That's okay. I'll keep going. I mean,
Here
the
we go.
other thing I know, Arden, and check
Here we
me
go.
on this if this is true, is that
Here we go.
Minors who had their breasts or genitals cut off.
All right. I'm going to play it through my mic on the phone because I got it. Bigotry and ignorance and lies. But I'm going to bet, are you also opposed to adults making this decision for themselves?
Am I opposed to it? Like, I think it's a good decision, or do I think it should be legal?
Do you think it should be legal? Nobody cares whether you think it's a good idea.
Oh, I think it should be legal because those people are better off, being weeded out of the gene pool.
Oh, there it is.
Bam.
There it is.
Why don't you come in and rim me after tacos, Jeremiah, and you can start by apologizing when I take you off mute since you've been schooled by an actual expert on the facts about this and you've been exposed as a liar. Let's come in, and after you apologize, we can talk about what your evidence for a God is.
What did I lie about, man?
About whether or not you said they should be weeded out of the gene pool.
I said they should be allowed to weed themselves out of the gene pool. That was your question.
No,
to me.
that's
Should they
not
be
what you
allowed to
said.
cut
I
off their
literally just
genitals?
paid
And I
it.
said
That's-
yes.
Okay, I literally just played it for you, you stupid fucking,
Oh, man.
you stupid fucking liar, about whether or not you said they should be weeded out of the gene pool. So what I replayed for you, let me mute this and get back to live. What I played for you was you saying that you think it should be legal because the best thing for them would to be weeded out of the gene pool. You didn't say they should be allowed to weed themselves out of the gene pool. You said the best thing for them. You're making a qualitative adjustment, assessment of what's better for them. That is fundamentally, logically identical to saying they ought to be weeded out of the gene pool. I find it absolutely, congratulations. You're completely disgusting, and all the opinions you've offered are completely disgusting. So if you're here just trolling to try to make money for RFR, that's fine. Thank you. I find it difficult to believe that anything about you is sincere or honest. I mean, you've only called one other time that I know of and said and asked if we can prove anything exists. And now you've mistaken transhumanism with secular humanism. You've lied about the actual instances of surgery and other things like that. And then you've decided, after getting called out for saying that these people should be weeded from the gene pool, and I gave you an opportunity. So I'm going to bring you back. You're not going to have to apologize for lying. We already know you lied. Please don't spend time denying it. I'm not going to go over it again. When I bring you back, all you need to do is choose to either list all of the groups that you think are better off weeded out of the gene pool, or give your defense of theism. And if you try to do either one of those things, I will hang up on you, whether a caller tries to stop me or not. So here we go. Pick your tactic.
Murderers should be weeded out of the gene pool. I would be completely fine with making sure that anyone who commits a murder does not ever reproduce.
What if they've already reproduced?
What are you asking me specifically? I mean, I don't think we should kill their children. Absolutely not. That's what abortionists do. We don't kill people just because they're associated or even the offspring of a murderer. We could also weed out rapists.
I'm
I would
sorry,
be completely
Jeremiah.
fine if we weeded rapists out of the gene pool, or those would be two great places to
I'd
start.
like that because that would get rid of the president. I'd like that because that would get rid of the president and a bunch of others.
Wouldn't that be great?
I'm sorry. It looks like I'm going to have to mute you every time we want to do this. I'd be fine with. I don't want to. By the way, I'm opposed to capital punishment. I think capital punishment, while it may not necessarily in principle be immoral, it might be. But I definitely think the systems that we have in place in the West and on this planet are insufficient to the task of justifying any capital punishment as moral. And while, inside, it would be very nice if we got rid of rapists, because that means we would be getting rid of the president and all of the other people associated with the Epstein class, apparently. You're taking the kind of low-hanging fruit. So you went with most people are going to be okay with capital punishment, which I'm not completely sure is correct. But here's the thing. Why are you okay with the elimination of murderers, rapists, and trans people, and those are the only three you've listed? Why do those go in the same group?
I'm not even talking about capital punishment. I'm talking about sterilizing.
I'm sorry. You're so terribly confused. So here, there are people you would like to weed out of the gene pool. They include murderers, rapists, and trans people. Who else would you personally like to see weeded out of the gene pool?
Child molesters, child abusers. Is that two good categories you want to complain about me thinking we'd be better off without?
No, I'm getting you. There's an extremely important point here, which you've managed to stupidly walk right into, just as I predicted. You went for murderers, rapists, child molesters. Why should trans people be in a category with those individuals? What is it about them that puts them? No.
They're not.
I'm sorry. What is it about? I'm sorry. I wasn't finished. I know this is really fucking difficult for you because there's something wrong with your brain. But what is it about trans people that makes them the only non-aggressive individual that you've added to that group of people you'd like to see removed from the gene pool?
Well, Matt, I don't want to see them removed from the gene pool. I pray for
you literally
trans
do. You said so.
I have several trans friends. I said that they should be allowed to.
No.
No, that's not what you said. How hard is it to say that's not what I meant? I misspoke. That's where you could have done that 20 minutes ago. But like we're still going around. You're either saying things you didn't say things you did say, or you're lumping trans people in with murderers, rapists, and pedophiles. I don't understand where this is going.
Yeah, it's bizarre, and part of me wants to keep Jeremiah coming back until someone donates the $777 to kick him off. But honestly, at this point, I'm going to keep Jeremiah for a little bit longer so that we can keep exposing how stupid and bigoted he is, because he's a cartoon for everything. So justice is the notion that people get what they deserve. But the process of justice is about attempting to minimize the harm to individuals. Let's say there was a person who was, I don't know, a murderer, or someone guilty of sexual assault. And let's just stick with murder. Here's a murderer. At some point, they receive counseling and treatment and repent from those ways, whether it be through some religion or through a humanist principle of, wow, I'm not the person I used to be. Do they get removed from the gene pile list at that point?
You're asking me, I think that as soon as you're convicted of rape or murder, that you should be sterilized.
Okay, I'm going to mute you because this is me sterilizing you as soon as you say something stupid. The issue here is your model does not allow for any hope of rehabilitation or any hope of making amends or refocusing and contributing to society in a way that can make some attempt to make it up. there are plenty of people who have murdered people who have gone on to fundamentally make the world better, and still serve time in prison.
Well, and Matt, can I
some of-
add the other thing that his model doesn't do, and that capital punishment doesn't do, is allow for the fact the justice system makes mistakes, right? If somebody committed a murder and you put them in jail for life, they're not going to reproduce, and they're not going to go out and murder anyone either. If you kill them through capital punishment, or if you sterilize them, and later DNA evidence comes out, as it often does, that exonerates the individual, you can't take that back. You've done some of the most grievous things you can do to a person that are irreversible, that they did not deserve. In what world is that just when there's another opportunity, namely, put them in a cell for the rest of their life, that keeps them from reproducing, that keeps them from harming everyone, but if you find out that you made a mistake, they can then be allowed to go and live their life, and you can compensate them for the harm that you did to them. In what world is that less moral than permanently harming someone when you cannot guarantee that they did what you say they did?
And I'm wondering if we maybe we put it up to a vote, like you get convicted of a murder and we as a society get together and vote about whether or not you just need to be exterminated or sterilized. If we later find out that the system was wrong and the system was broken and you were wrongly convicted, what should happen to all the people who supported that conviction?
I actually have a pretty nuanced position on the death penalty that might surprise you, though I don't think that you would support my alternative to the death penalty.
That's not my question.
Mandatory.
That's not my question.
I'm sorry, what?
That wasn't my question.
What is your question?
You don't remember my question? Were you just sitting there quietly waiting for your turn to come off mute?
I do remember your question. I was going to explain how I have a proposal that would actually allow people to, be useful and have productive lives in prison, and I would be happy to get rid of the death penalty if that was the case.
So that still doesn't answer my question.
We should have an alternative to the death
actually
penalty,
wonderful. Misty Nipples has donated $777. Jeremiah, get fucked, you sack of human shit.
There we go.
Sorry.
Thank you so much, Misty Nipples. No, it's great. That's absolutely wild because this person actually did us monumental favors. I would say, Fish, because apart, if he could have actually convinced somebody that he left humanism and became that would have been huge, because that would show the power of humanism keeping people away from that. But he only left transhumanism so that he could be transphobic.
Well, we do say humanism is an identity that moves people toward better positions. But look, you're more trusting than I am. I don't believe everybody is who they say they are. And I highly doubt that Jeremiah was in fact a humanist who left humanism because we decided to support bodily autonomy, which we have been supporting consistently all along for hundreds of years. I think that it was a lame attempt at a dunk and a gotcha. And, well, I guess what do you expect on when you're arguing with people who want to compare forcible genital mutilation to elective gender affirming surgeries?
It is cartoonish bad arguments that we've dealt with, I don't know, 1,000 times here. And I really wanted to hope to lead to something, because there's so many flaws with that. Massive, huge thank you to Misty Nipples for doing that. Getting rid of that caller with that 777 donation. Don't bother calling back either. That seals you for the night. And we appreciate you raising $777 for recovering from religion. As a reminder, you can see the chart on the screen. If you want to shut me up for a minute, it's 202. If you want to shut the caller up for a minute, it's 404. If you want to shut me up for 5 minutes, that's 666. He should have done that. He should have just donated the money if he's that serious about, getting his transphobia induced. If you donate 777, we must, in fact, drop the callers, which is what Misty Nipples did. Awesome, possum. We couldn't be happier. And for $9.99, the caller will get 5 uninterrupted minutes. And let me tell you how much I love every single one of you for not donating $999 to give that caller 5 uninterrupted minutes.
I tell you what, though, when we had come back at the end of those 5 uninterrupted minutes, Jeremiah would have given himself enough rope to hang himself 5 times up.
True. There's nothing practical about this, you're absolutely right to bring up the flaws in the system, but our prison system's already problematic in that the recidivism rates are high because of the way the system's run. There's no good rehabilitation process for the overwhelming majority of this, and there's a number of reasons why one person might find themselves convicted of something that Jeremiah thinks needs to be removed from the gene pool.
Yeah,
I'm wondering
what
though if he would include bigots on that list,
well,
not just bigots who hold positions, perhaps, but maybe bigots who advocate for other people being removed from the gene pool. Because I think Jeremiah is going to find himself on the wrong side of his own policies if he ever saw them implemented.
it seems to me that he'd be okay with bigots who want people removed from the gene pool running around spreading their genes everywhere. I also just I don't like this idea of genetic determinism, right? This feels like such a, literally a Christian thing, the sins of the father, the sins of the son, right? This idea that you can carry badness in your body because your parents were. I happen to think people can be like independent from their parents, and that if you have a parent who did the bad things, that doesn't mean you have some inherent badness within you. I believe that people are different, but I don't know. It's a bridge too far for some people, I guess. I don't think we should judge people if their parent was a murderer.
If
Maybe
I can
judge murderers, but
hop in real quick before we move on to our next call, I just want to say that thanks to Misty Nipples and all of you guys, we raised $1,155 over the course of Jeremiah's call for recovering from religion. Although I think you guys can do much better. I hope we remember we're gonna see who raised the most. So I mean, I would have loved to have donated way more in the name of Jeremiah to RFR, but we have more callers to come, and I think you guys can generate a whole bunch of funds. So, small dollar donations are huge for during the call. I'll keep track of everything that comes in.
You don't have to donate more than $1 to make a difference. You're already doing it.
And I'll say, recovering from religion does more with your dollar than any secular organization, including mine. Like I'm just going to say it. I love RFR and I love how much they do with a mostly volunteer staff. When you give them even a little bit of money, they have one paid staffer, and they stretch that dollar so far by using volunteers and using tech to serve so many people who are really going through it as they try to leave religion and help them land in a safe place. Like there's not a better dollar you can spend.
I think because one of the things, somebody kind of halfway pointed this out in chat, we're getting ready to get to another call, or this one, wow, that says MAGA and wants to defend his God belief. So I guess theist and MAGA, cool. Because there is an opportunity to mute the caller and another opportunity to drop the caller, I think I'm going to stop muting the caller except when it's like absolutely necessary, when there's some sort of slur or tech problem or something like that, that even if they are uncooperative and just deciding to talk over us or try to talk over us, at a minimum, or at most, I think maybe we'd, I don't know, lower the volume a little so that it doesn't become a yelling match. But I don't want to hold the show hostage for somebody to donate money to stop a problem. Hopefully, let's just hope that we don't have any more problems like that we get actual honest interlocutors who want to engage on stuff. So here's John from Arizona, pronouns are he, him. John is MAGA and believes in God and wants to defend his belief. We are happy to engage. John, welcome. You're on with Fish and myself.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, John,
Better.
Doing great.
Yeah. Look, this is all my personal opinion. Yeah, we can talk about. I do support President Trump. I have resentment for the political left, and that stems primarily from C-19 and open borders. I believe in tolerance, but I think the left glamorizes the homosexual community. I want détente with the Russians. I support Israel. What's happened is postmodernism in the Frankfurt School and Hollywood and MTV has made the left crazy. And I know it's ironic I'm a Zionist. So we can talk about any one of those topics if you'd like.
Boy, we got the whole charcuterie board there, didn't we, Matt?
Awesome.
What are the things that are making me crazy? Postmodernism, Hollywood, MTV, and what was it? The fourth thing was something I've never heard of. I do.
Frankfurt School.
I'm not trying to play dumb. I have no fucking idea what that is, man.
Oh, the Frankfurt School was it's an actual building in Frankfurt, Germany. It came out of Germany in the 1930s. It would be people such as Herbert Marcuse. He wrote Repressive Tolerance in 1965. He also wrote Eros and Civilization. He was one of the primary philosophical thinkers of the left, known as the father of the new left in the 1960s. Yeah.
Here's the thing, man.
Go ahead.
You're telling me a lot of things that, as somebody on the left, have addled my brain that I don't know exist. How about you stick to telling me about what you think, and I can tell you about what I think. I'd like to know more about your. You say you resent the left. Tell me more about that. I don't know if I resent I disagree with the right. I don't resent you. I have a different belief. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so I mean, like during C19, I find it extremely hypocritical, but it's probably
Sorry, what
more
is C19?
hierarchical.
I apologize for interrupting you. I don't.
COVID.
You keep saying that. I don't know what it is.
COVID
Okay.
pandemic.
COVID.
All right.
Yeah, so during COVID, the left was imposing totalitarian lockdowns. The beaches were closed, schools were closed.
I'm sorry. Who was president when the lockdowns were initiated?
Well, President Trump reluctantly agreed to 2 weeks to slow the spread. It was Democratic governors that I'm referring to.
No. I was there. We were all there on March 13th. I remember I was coming back from Washington, D.C. to Charleston, West Virginia on a plane, and everyone was starting to put masks on. March 13th, 2020. President Trump ordered a national shutdown. My Republican governor, Jim Justice in West Virginia, closed schools, right? Closed churches, closed things. This was not Democrats and Republicans united to have a temporary pause and get people to stay home when coronavirus was at a peak and saved millions of lives. And you have the right to disagree with that, but don't pretend it wasn't both of them doing it.
Well, it was much more extreme in blue states under Democratic governors. So yeah, I mean
Did the lockdowns potentially save lives?
Well, they did an analysis of it, and it really there was a lot of collateral damage. There were record rates of young people who.
That's not what I asked.
I know for me it was.
That's not what I asked. So
your question.
There's been over 1.2 million confirmed deaths. Does the consensus of the recognized experts suggest that the procedures we implemented that you're trying to characterize as totalitarian lockdowns, did they result most likely in fewer deaths?
I think overall, because like I mentioned, look,
the answer is yes.
Look, I'm not a doctor.
It doesn't surprise me that you're not a doctor, but you're complaining about COVID-19, and I asked a very simple question that we already know the answer to. And the answer is that while nothing was perfect, and while nothing is going to necessarily stop everything, the procedures that we put in were the best practices of the medical community advising at that time, and the post-COVID analysis, or since it still exists when the epidemic or the pandemic portion was over, was that those procedures, despite the loss of over 1 million United States lives, when implemented and followed, do in fact reduce the risk of transmission, which by extension reduces the death from that. How is that not a good thing?
Okay, so look, I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving you medical advice. COVID was.
I'm sorry. I said, how is that not a good thing?
Well, look, COVID was treated completely wrong. Okay, there were early treatments available that were suppressed. Okay, what the mainstream medical opinion was to come back when somebody couldn't breathe. I'm sorry, but that also.
I'm sorry. This also wasn't my question. My question was, how is that not a good thing?
How is what not a good thing?
Wow, it's like wow. All right. So we know from the post-pandemic data that the procedures that were suggested by the medical experts as the best practices resulted in a decrease in the distribution or the spreading of the virus, and reduced in deaths. I reduced the number of deaths. I asked, how is that not a good thing? And you avoided it by saying they handled it wrong to begin with, which wasn't the question.
Look, the experts flipped, like on masks, for example. I mean, this is look.
I'm sorry.
Wrong, man.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But my question is, what I described. I'd like you to tell me why that's not a good thing. You're objecting to something that all of the best available data suggest, while imperfect, and there may have been better solutions, resulted in fewer deaths. And you're suggesting that it's not a good thing. I would like to know why.
Well, I'm trying to explain to you there was early treatments available that were suppressed, and the experts.
No,
so-called
sir. No,
experts
sir.
have
No,
flipped
sir.
on-
No, sir. No, sir. I don't need you to
on
try to explain to me something. Yes, I'm interrupting you. I'm sorry that you're weak. Yeah, I don't need you to
No,
explain
you're just being
something.
rude.
No. You're being dishonest, and it's my show.
No,
So, yes,
no.
yes, you are being
your
dishonest because I'm sorry, but the question I asked is, how is that a bad thing? And you once again started in on earlier, there were other things they could have done, which is not relevant to what I asked you.
I'm just telling you, it came at a high
I don't
price
care
for
what
a
you're
record
just
breaking
telling me. The fact of the matter is what you're saying is irrelevant to the question. And until you answer the question I asked you, I'm not going to let you continue to make any other point. So how could it be a bad thing to implement the best practices by the medical community's assessment at the time that demonstrated a reduction in the transmission of the disease and the number of deaths? How is that a bad thing?
I just disagree with your premise.
I'm sorry. How is that a bad thing? You can disagree with the facts all you want, but that just demonstrates that you as MAGA are delusional and not dealing with the facts. If you want to go on to another point, we can do. If you want to go on to another point, we can do that after you answer my question of how is it a bad thing to follow the medical guidelines that reduce death?
Well, you really didn't, because I imagine you were for the BLM.
We really did. We really did. I already pointed this out. I already pointed this out. By the way, you don't know if there were any better procedures because you're not a doctor or virologist. We listened to the medical experts, and all of the available assessments of the data suggest that following that advice was the best course of action at the time, or at least was a good course of action. You're complaining about it, not because you have any data or understanding, but because you think it wasn't a good thing. Why? I still don't know why. Why is it a good thing to lower the number of deaths?
Well, if you quit interrupting me, I'll explain it.
I'm sorry, John. I'm not going to be any more impressed about you whining about being interrupted. Here's the thing. I'm a professional. I've done this for 20 years. When I ask a question after presenting the information that should change someone's mind, and they instead switch to another topic, that's called deflection. It's called. You did try to switch to another topic. Yes, you did, sir. Yes, you did. And in just a second, I'm going to treat you like the kindergartner you're asking, and only let you answer yes or no questions. So here we go. Here's the first question. Did following the COVID-19 guidelines that you're objecting to result in a reduction in the transmission of the disease? Yes or no?
No.
How do you know that? Where's your data?
The experts flipped on masks. If you read Jerome Adams' tweet in late February of 2020, what did he say? He said the mask. Fauci said something similar, that the general public is not protected by masks, and then they fucking flipped about a month later. You're just wrong, Matt.
But John, that's not an answer to Matt's. John, that's not an answer to Matt's question. Experts updating their opinions when they get additional data doesn't mean that the guidelines that were put in place at the beginning of the COVID pandemic didn't save lives. Do you honestly think that if there was no lockdown, there would have been fewer deaths? Do you honestly think that?
But also, when I ask you for data, don't cite somebody. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. When I ask you for data, don't cite someone's tweet several years before the data I'm talking about. Mine was post-pandemic assessment of the data, and that taking the steps when we did helped. And you're objecting to that. And when I asked you for data to say that I'm wrong, you cited a fucking tweet from 2020. That's embarrassing, John. No, John, I'm interrupting you because you're a fucking dishonest arguer. Where's the data that suggests that I'm wrong in what? Where's the data that suggests that I'm wrong in what I said? I don't need you to cite Jerome's tweet from 2020 because Jerome's tweet from 2020 is not relevant to the data I was referencing.
Okay, there were early treatments available that were suppressed.
I'm sorry, John, but please stop talking about early treatments. It's not relevant to this, just like Jerome's tweet from 2020 isn't relevant to this. No, it's not relevant to this. No, it's not relevant. No, it's not relevant. No, it's not relevant. No, it's not relevant. No, it's not relevant to this because my statement was about data assessed much later and an assessment of what actually happened. I asked you, did implementing those reduce deaths, yes or no? And you said no, and the data you cited was something in 2020 that does not that is not data that I'm wrong about whether or not it reduced death. It's also not data that you're right. You're just being a no, 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 no. I'm a fucking gonna suck Trump's balls and gargle this until we all die. If you can't present a case, why should we listen to you?
You keep interrupting me, Matt. Just let me
I'm
talk for
sorry.
30
I'm
seconds.
sorry. I'm sorry, John. I'm sorry, John. Every fucking time your bitch ass whines about getting interrupted, I'm going to interrupt you again. Get off of your pity party. I'm a victim. Get off of your pity party. I'm a victim, and actually make a point.
Okay, were you for the BLM protests in the summer of 2020? And you're also for lockdowns. That's fucking hypocritical, but it's more hierarchical. Okay? Because in your
I'm
fucking
sorry.
deranged mind,
No, I'm sorry.
mind,
I'm sorry, John. No, John, I'm sorry. Did you just say I was for something with, or did you ask me if I was for something?
I asked you if you were for the BLM protests.
Then why didn't you let me answer the question? Why didn't you let me answer the question before you went on to tell me that it's my deranged mind?
Go ahead.
I don't feel like answering your questions. See, the reality is,
I'll answer the question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Summer 2020, I was getting together with my friends outside. And so, yeah, an outdoor protest for a cause I believed in, which is that black people shouldn't be shot and killed by police when they haven't been committed any crime, was fine with me, just like it was fine for me to have a cookout in my backyard. Because, again, they're in West Virginia and most of the country, it was not banned to get together with people outside, right? There were still some bans on things like indoor gatherings or like it highly transmissible. I mean, I used to be an educator. You know how many kids get sick at school every day? But you're making an assumption that doesn't exist. I was fine with people gathering outside, which is what the protests were. I didn't see them happening indoors.
Yeah. So
well,
I'm sorry, John. You got to listen. You said it's hypocritical of me to support quarantine procedures and the right to protest. How is that hypocritical? You don't know what the facts are, but you seem to think you know my position enough to call me hypocritical. So where am I hypocritical for supporting quarantine procedures and the right to protest?
I'm just saying that if we're all locking down, that if schools are
closed, no. I'm sorry, John, that your brain doesn't function correctly.
Me, dude.
Yeah, I do because I'm going to demand. You've already put yourself in the kindergarten corner. I'm going to do it. I would do it that way.
You're like the fucking cowardly lion. You're afraid to let me.
No.
Oh,
I'm just the guy that owns you because you're too stupid to argue. Honestly, you accuse me of being hypocritical.
No, you're.
It is. Yes. You accuse me of being hypocritical, and now I'm offering you the chance to explain how I was hypocritical. But I'm sorry. I asked you to prove how I'm hypocritical. Are you able to demonstrate how it's hypocritical of me to support quarantine procedures? Yes or no?
Yes, if we're all locking down.
No. When I say yes or no, that's the only fucking word that you get to utter until I answer the follow-up, until I ask the follow-up, and then you get to continue. So don't try to sneak in extra words because like I promised, I'm going to interrupt you every single time you try to deflect to something else or refuse to answer the question at hand. You have demonstrated that you're not a grown-up and can't be in a grown-up conversation without some guidance. So we're going to give you some guidance. So here we go. I asked you if you could demonstrate how it's hypocritical of me to support quarantine procedures, and you said yes, and you started to answer more. If you'd have just said yes, we wouldn't have to listen to this. See how much easier that is? I'm just waiting for somebody to donate, but here we go. Now the question is, please demonstrate how it is hypocritical of me to support quarantine procedures.
Okay, so if we're all locking down, if schools are closed, if beaches are closed, if we can't visit relatives in the hospital, if we're social distancing, it's hypocritical to encourage protesting, and the Democrats allowed chaos, riots, and looting, and certainly looting is an indoor activity. That's how it's hypocritical.
I'm sorry. I'm going to mute you again because you are just absolutely incapable of focusing on a point. I didn't say anything about supporting a right to protest in violation of quarantine procedures. I didn't even ask you about a right to protest in quarantine procedures for this one. This one, I specifically reduced that and said, how is it hypocritical of me to support quarantine procedures? So let's try this again. On its own, what about supporting quarantine procedures is hypocritical with my view?
It's hypocritical because protesting overrode it.
I didn't say anything. Man, John, are you okay? You need some help, some therapy. You could probably reach out to the Psychotherapy Project and get some help. I specifically set aside the protest thing because you accused me of being hypocritical merely for supporting quarantine procedures. And I asked you, are you able to demonstrate how it's hypocritical of me to support quarantine procedures? And you said yes. And then when I asked you to do it, you keep talking about protest. Please show me where I supported violating quarantine procedures in order to protest, because I did not. And if I did, I'll retract it, but I did not. However, I'm saying you need to demonstrate, if you're going to call me a hypocrite, how me supporting quarantine procedures is hypocritical, I'm sorry if you don't know the word, means is in conflict with my other positions. So that means you need to say, Matt, you believe X, and this is in contradiction with your position to support quarantine procedures. Can you do that? Yes or no?
Matt, it's conditional on you being for protesting.
I'm sorry, you're way too stupid for this. I literally just asked you, are you able to show that my support for quarantine, you need to say, Matt, you believe X, and then don't just say the letter X. State what the position is. Matt, you believe this principle, and supporting quarantine procedures violates that principle. That's how you demonstrate a conflict that would be hypocritical. I'm going to give you one more chance, and then I'm just going to let, I don't know. We'll see if this continues. So here we go. In order to say that my support of quarantine procedures is hypocritical, you have to say, Matt, you believe X, the specific thing. I wouldn't have to dumb this down for you if you just wake the fuck up. And that is in conflict with supporting quarantine procedures. Let's try this again.
Yes. If you want quarantine procedures such as schools closing, beaches closing, not being able to visit relatives in the hospital, then you should not be for protesting and allowing.
Okay, I'm sorry, John. As I pointed out, I'm not in favor of protests that violate quarantine process. This is your last chance to present a contradiction. Try again.
Dude, this is not a fair debate. Like
You're right, it's not a fair debate. You have come completely unarmed, and you've come with nothing but the ability to lie and whine.
John, what happened is you made an assumption that Matt supported protests happening in violation of quarantine procedures. And you accused him of being a hypocrite when he wasn't, and he's had to spend the last 20 minutes explaining to you that he didn't.
Okay. And since I've talked so much, I'm surprised. I was trying to see if I could get somebody to silence me, or maybe John would do it. I'm just going to let you talk to Fish for a while, because I have a real problem with liars and stupid people, and you are like kingfish of both, because you've personally attacked me and accused me of being hypocritical for something that I've repeatedly given you a chance to demonstrate, and you have not only failed to do so, you failed to show that you even had a basic understanding of what my position was. Just like you had failed to demonstrate that you had an understanding of what data should conflict and show that I was wrong about something that you asserted I was wrong about. The facts and reality just aren't on MAGA's side. I'm sorry that you sacrificed all of your humanity and dignity and intelligence on the golden altar of the pedophile hiding 30 some odd felony convicted or court adjudicated rapist who's gotten us into multiple wars and has raised gas prices to the point where you can't afford to drive around much anymore. But that's the situation we're in. So let's ignore the fact that you called me a hypocrite, and we'll ignore the fact that I had any conversation with you at all, and see if, because I know that Fish wants to get in, because we only talked about COVID-19. You also talked about the political left cozying up to the queer community. So I think that'd be a really good place for you to start. So I'm going to
Oh yeah,
unmute
what
you.
was the homosexual promotion or something? Yeah, let's go. Let's talk about something the fuck else. What else, John? What else have I done to you?
I'm going to back out. I'm going to bring John in. John, don't address me. Don't whine. Just talk to Fish about why you're a homophobe.
Okay, yeah, Fish, you want to change the topic? That's fine. Look, like I said, I believe in tolerance. I'm just against drag queens reading to kids. I'm against there being gay pride parades in the middle of a Sunday afternoon. I think it's indoctrinating and corrupting children.
What business do you? What? Oh, hold on. What business do you have to say who can gather in public and have a parade? In what you're trying to talk to me about totalitarianism just now, and you were saying that we shouldn't place restrictions on who can gather. Why the fuck do you get to say who has a parade?
Okay, so are you okay with okay, so I'm just asking for. I just thought the gay community could have their.
Like, but what? Why? You said you don't think it's okay for there to be pride parades on a Sunday afternoon. And you were telling me you think it's totalitarian for the government to say when you can and can't gather. I don't understand how these two things square, man.
Well, I think it's corrupting children. I would like to see you all have your parade, the gay community have their parades like in a night.
I'm sorry.
Just away from kids. I think it's.
I'm not gay.
Corrupting kids.
But we're making assumptions all over the place here.
No, I didn't. No, I just said the gay community. I think that they should. I think it's indoctrinating children. I guess I would just ask you. So why would you want drag queens reading to kids? Do you think it's a free speech, free expression right or something?
I think more people should read to children. I think you probably should have been read to more. I don't care what clothes they wear when they do it. I think that's an asinine thing to care about. I think there are real problems in the world. Why is that something you care about?
Yeah, if a neo-Yahtzee gets dressed up and reads a storybook to kids, are you okay with that?
Well, I sure as shit don't care what clothes he's wearing.
Okay, but this is the whole point. If it's a free speech argument, then you have to let the Nazis read to the kids too.
This is, you made an argument about drag queens. You made an argument about drag queens. I don't care. Hold on, John. I don't care about what somebody is wearing. Your issue is not with the book that's being read to kids. I would have a problem, for instance, with somebody reading Mein Kampf to a child. I don't care if it's a drag queen. I don't care if they're a neo-Nazi dressed like me. I don't care if it's anyone. You shouldn't read Mein Kampf out loud in the library because it's a horrific, racist book. You are focused on what somebody is wearing when they read to a child. Just like, and I don't see like that, just like how who decides to gather and hold a parade is any of your damn business.
Okay, so I just want to make sure you're okay with a neo-Nazi dressed up in their uniform reading a children's book to children, and you're also okay with the neo-Nazis having a parade in the middle of a Sunday afternoon downtown too? Are you okay with those things?
I don't think the neo-Nazis should do that because I think neo-Nazis are dumb and they should get better hobbies. I think our government shouldn't restrict political speech. I take the side of the ACLU that said people should be allowed. The government shouldn't suppress racist ideology. Instead, we as citizens should point and laugh at them and mock them. But the government doesn't have any business telling you or me or a drag queen what they can and can't say. That's my position, yeah.
Okay, so you'd also, I'm asking, would you be okay, like we're seeing a lot of pro-Palestinian protests, are you okay with the Nazis protesting on college campuses too, camping out on the lawn? You think the colleges would give the same treatment for that? Do you really believe that?
Well, a college is a private institution.
Private
institutions have a right. Okay, public college. Sure, public colleges have to allow political protest. I don't think they should discriminate based on ideology. Now, I'll tell you, when I was in college, you had far-right groups come and host small, shitty political protests that no one came to, and it exposed how unimportant they were. And yeah, I think it's fine for people with ideologies I disagree with to go and represent those ideologies out in public so that I can go and mock them. Like, that, to me, is what free speech is all about. I'm confused why you think it's your business to control who has the parades.
No, I'm just saying that just if you
No. You were
I'm trying to answer you.
okay. All right. Let me hear you out.
Yeah, so I think that being gay or trans, there definitely is a genetic component to it, but there's also an environmental and a cultural component too. In the case of the environment, I think that essay in childhood has something to do with it. As far as a culture goes, like the society of ancient Greece, there's going to be a lot more people identifying as gay or bisexual because the culture glamorizes
Somebody's
it.
going to have to hold me back in a
It's like
second.
I don't.
Go ahead.
I don't remember a lot of people identifying as gay in ancient Greece. I wasn't there, but you are not. It would be great if you would arrive at the point around why you think you should be able to decide who gets to have parades.
Because there's an exponential increase of young people who are identifying as gay, and it's directly impacted by the culture. And look,
An
again,
exponential increase.
Look. I'll put it this way.
No. You made a claim.
No.
I'm asking you before we go any further, because it seems like you're making an argument that rests on that claim. So support the claim. An exponential increase in young people who identify as gay. It's been a long time since I was in algebra, but I know what an exponential function looks like. That's a pretty big jump. Where's that data come from?
It's about 40% of young women are identifying as bisexual now, and my guess would be for the. Go ahead.
And that's increased from what?
Oh, I would guess over the last 30 years, it was probably maybe 10% before, I would imagine.
Okay, well that's not exponential. That's not how exponents work. But
yeah, that's not exponential. But
what
do you think?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Matt, go ahead.
Nah, go ahead.
Okay, you're saying the reason that you would like to restrict people's political speech is because you have a problem that more people are identifying as gay. And you're also telling me you're tolerant. I don't understand how tolerance can exist with having a political goal that fewer people should identify as a sexuality.
No, I'm just saying I'm all for people's right to freedom of speech.
That's a lie.
Okay? Like
that's a lie.
That's
a lie.
Well, wait a
That's
minute.
a lie.
Let me explain.
No, I don't need to wait a minute. You're going to lie, and I'm not going to let you lie. I'm going to explain to you why you're lying. I'm going to mute you, and you're going to listen. You've made a number of accusations. You say that you're opposed to this because you think it's corrupting children. I'd like you to present evidence that it's corrupting children. I'm pretty sure you think you just did by suggesting that more people might be identifying publicly with a queer identity than in the past. It's not exponential, but there has been an increase in a number of things, just like there's been an increase in the diagnosis of people with autism. That has to do with changes in how we diagnose things and the treatment. But the number of people who are willing to identify and say they are queer is not necessarily an increase in the number of queer people. It is an increase in the number of people who are willing to publicly identify, which means we have worked to make sure that it is a safer place for people with queer identities to let it be known, so that they don't have to live in the closet, so they don't have to hide. So everything about your argument is fundamentally flawed, including the point that Fish is trying to make, which is, why is there a problem with the number of people identifying as something? Let's say that all of a sudden, for whatever reason, whether it was through indoctrination, whether it was through too many people saw a drag queen read a storybook, or we put something in the water, now all of a sudden, 90% of the population is gay. You say you're tolerant. You suggest that you're supporting freedom. If you do, how could it possibly be a problem that there are more people that are gay, which is what Fish is asking?
Yeah, right. So, I mean, that about 5% of Gen Zers are identifying as trans or non-binary, and
I'm sorry, John. I'm sorry, John. I'm sorry, John. I'm going to have to meet you again because you're just incapable of actually listening to and answering the question you're asked. You keep wanting to preach with whatever limited misinformation you have. You've already acknowledged that you think that this is all coming from SA and childhood. You don't have data to support that. There isn't data to support that. But what I asked was, let's assume that whatever the reason is, the actual number of people who are queer is dramatically increasing. As someone who professes to be tolerant and supporting freedom, how could it possibly be a problem for you such that you want to make changes so that more people don't wind up queer?
Well, I would say that, I like to drink gin, but that doesn't mean that I'm not advocating for more people becoming alcoholic.
Okay. I'm going to mute you again because your problems with alcohol and your problems with thinking and reasoning and your problems with avoiding fallacies and your problems with listening to the actual question are preventing you once again from making a cogent point. Trust me, if we had another caller, I wouldn't have waited for somebody to donate to get rid of you. By the way, that's a good reminder. We have lines open, 720-619-2288. But here's the thing. Now, John, we're going to put you in super kindergarten. We've moved from kindergarten to preschool. So when you come in, after I unmute you, I need you to state what the question is and then answer it. And so here's the question. What's wrong with there being more gay people, irrespective of the reason?
What's wrong with there being more gay people, irrespective of the reason? Is that it's a deviation from the norm. I believe in evolution.
I'm
and
sorry.
I know that
I'm sorry. I'm going to mute you again, John, because you gave your answer. And I now have a problem with your answer that I'd like you to get your feedback on. Because first of all, evolution has nothing to say about the value judgments on homosexuality or anything. Evolution has nothing to say. It's irrelevant. But when I asked you what's wrong, go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't understand how you can start off the call by saying your problem with the left is that it's totalitarian. And then your problem with gay people is that they deviate from the norm. It is the ethic of totalitarianism to try and punish deviation from the norm. Whereas we are here arguing that MAGA needs humanism because we've got to respect people's differences in this country. And look, you can have a totalitarian opinion, but don't try to lecture me about totalitarianism because, like every elected official in America, I thought that we should shut down schools and public gatherings for a little while on March 13th, 2020, and then say, well, we should restrict free speech like pride parades because you think falsely it encourages people to deviate from the norm. In what way is that not the definition of totalitarianism?
There we go. We'll go with Fisher's question. It's similar to mine, slightly different. How is it not an exercise of totalitarianism to object to deviations from the norm and oppose deviations to the norm?
Oh, I don't think it's totalitarian. I was just trying to explain that libido comes from an evolution.
Okay. I'm sorry. Nobody cares about you lecturing about evolution or libido. The question that Fish asked you was, how is it not an exercise of totalitarianism to be advocating for petitions that oppose people's freedom because it deviates from the norm? Try and answer that question. Please don't make me put you in pre-K again to say it. So one more time here. How is it not an application of totalitarianism to attempt to oppose people's freedom to deviate from the norm?
It's not totalitarianism if I just say I think people should try to be straight, but if they can't, it's okay. And look, man,
yes, it is.
Hominem, it's really, your ad hominems are. Have you muted me again?
No,
you're still talking, again. Man. But you're not making any sense. It is in fact directly totalitarian to tell people how you think they should live their private lives. You're telling people they should try to be straight. How's that any of your goddamn fucking business? How is that? In fact, how is that somehow less totalitarian than saying when there's a deadly global pandemic going around, we're gonna shut down the schools for a couple weeks? I don't understand where you get off telling people that they should try to be a certain sexuality. That, and then say the left is totalitarian.
Yeah, it's weird. You came in objecting to, oh, how dare you tell me to quarantine for the good of people when the scientific evidence suggests and then winds up showing that's a good thing. I'm going to go ahead and advocate for a limitation on people's freedoms because it's a deviation from the norm. And then when called out on it, I'm going to say, well, I'm perfectly fine. I think they should try not to be gay, but it's okay if they wind up. Okay, well then let's skip to the thing where I don't care if they ever tried not to be. My question is, how is a deviation from the norm objectionable? What is the justification for determining that people exercising their freedom and their free speech in ways that are deviations from the norm, that, by the way, don't seem to be hurting you or anybody else? We're still talking about what consenting adults are doing. How is that a bad thing? How is that something you find? Why do you find it objectionable? This is what Fish just said. I don't even know why I'm rephrasing it. How is it your business whether somebody's views deviate from the norm?
Well, it's just my opinion. You want to know what real totalitarianism is? Look at Gaza and Iran.
No, hold on. Okay. But it's not just your opinion. If you are saying we should restrict people's speech and right to assembly based on that opinion, you can't say we should try and discourage this deviation from the norm by trying to restrict people what people can do and say, oh, but that's not totalitarianism, that's just my opinion. No, you defined what totalitarianism is, and you're trying to walk it back because you got called out, man. Like, this is not, I mean, what? You want to, I am against look, religious states trying to tell people what they can and can't do. You think you're going to gotcha me with Iran? Man, I'm against Islamic states and Christo-fascist states trying to tell people what they can and can't do based on religious law. This is my job, man, to advocate against that shit. You're not going to gotcha me with that.
Well, no, I just look in the U.S. The left hates the Christian right. You all on the left, you put homosexuals on a pedestal, but in places like Iran, homosexuals are put on a pedestal to be hanged. This is why you're crazy. Okay,
hey, John,
man, I don't know if I ever said I hate the Christian right, man. I've never said I hate you. What I'm saying is I don't understand the consistency of your argument. Okay, that's great. That's fine too. I don't understand what you are saying. How you are accusing me of totalitarianism, but you are the one who is saying we should restrict people's speech and we should restrict their freedom of assembly because you think they should make different choices about their sexuality. And then you're saying, but it's wrong when Iran does it, but we should do it my way. I don't understand any of this, Matt. What do you think?
I have a question for John because I'm not sure I understand. Are you saying it's better to put homosexuals on a pedestal to be hanged than it is to put them on a pedestal metaphorically to praise them?
No, I'm just pointing out the hypocrisy.
Then why did you attempt your weak attempt at poetry to draw a contrast between putting them on a pedestal for lauding or putting them on a pedestal to be hanged? Which of those is better?
Which of those is better?
Which of those is better?
Which of them is better?
Yes.
To be put on a pedestal. Well, yeah, to be put on a pedestal.
How fucking sad this is. I'm going to mute you and now I'm going to give a sermon. And
it really took him a second.
And it's going to take somebody in chat to shut me up. John, just listen to John's voice. John thought he was being clever. And so when you ask a very simple question, which is better, putting someone on a pedestal to be hanged or putting them on a pedestal metaphorically to be lauded? We all know that being hanged is the wrong one. But John's brain, John's MAGA cult-infested brain, is so deluded that he could not bring himself to just immediately recognize that because something in his brain said, ooh, if you say that, it'll sound like you're supporting praising homosexuals. There's a reason. I was asked once by another dipshit in the atheist community, someone who's non-religious. who is bright in some regards and stupid as fuck in some others. Hi, Pete. Why is there such a thing as Pride Festival? What do you got to be proud about? And it's, demonstration that he didn't understand the basics of language. Because Pride festivals aren't about, oh, I'm proud I'm gay. It's about opposing the accusation that it's something you should be ashamed of. If they weren't being marginalized, if they weren't being sidelined, and if they weren't being the targets of bigots like John, there'd be no need for a Pride Festival. Just like there's no need for any Pride festivals for anybody who's in a majority privileged position. Where's the billionaire Pride Festival? They're a minority. They have all the fucking power. So when you're talking about gay people, we should be lifting them up because they've been stomped down to the dirt. We're not putting them on a pedestal above other people. We're raising them up to try to promote equality. That's why Nick, in addition to the other efforts, heads up the Center for Free Thought Equality. This is why humanists, we are advocating for equality, not of everything, but of access, of treatment of the law under justification for dignity and respect and autonomy. John's brain, it genuinely makes me sad. John hates those queer folks so much, and he'll deny it. I don't hate them. I'm tolerant. They should try not to be, and maybe it's bad for them to deviate from the norm. But would you let me finish? Would you let me finish? I'm trying to rehabilitate the public's perception of my view on queer people, while I then immediately go on to suggest that you can either put them up on a pedestal to praise them, or put them up on a pedestal to kill them. Oh, which one's better? My God, John, go get some help. Get some therapy. You don't know or understand the facts. You don't know or understand the subjects. And you are put in a position where you are actively denying reality and shitting on human beings in order to prop up your position and make you feel better. You're a shitty person, and you don't have to be. Did you have anything to add before I bring John back?
We got a 777 donation.
Oh,
so I dropped his ass. But Fish, go on, please.
Recovering from religion.
Fish, please, yes.
It infuriates me, and this happened to you earlier on the call, Matt, when somebody can't understand somebody's argument and reaches for a hypocrisy charge because they can't link two things together. Let's spell out what he was trying to say. He was trying to say that because either he's making an assumption or he heard it earlier in the call. Because I oppose the military's illegal and wasteful and criminal war in Iran, and I also support the rights of queer people to openly be who they are, that I'm somehow a hypocrite. In fact, I oppose any kind of state suppression, which is what he was advocating for, of people's sexuality, including when Iran does it. But just because I don't agree with the government in Iran, I don't think we should be spending $1 billion a day to wipe out Iranian civilians who didn't make that choice. And by the way, we're not doing it to liberate the gay people in Iran. We're bombing them too. We're doing it for oil and to make Benjamin Netanyahu happy. And, John, if you care so much about consistency, what you would be able to do is decide, are you for people being able to live freely, or are you just trying to figure out a series of gotchas? And I don't know. Matt, I really thought we would get some callers tonight who would engage us in an actual debate.
So far, I cannot tell. It's entirely possible that everybody who's called in was actively trying to raise money for Recovering for Religion by getting dropped for $777. And it's happened twice. So thanks to Agni for that last one. And by the way, you don't have to donate the big dollars. It's really time right now. I have a caller here, and it's a theist. And this caller wants to defend his belief in God. And this caller shows no previous calls. And I don't want to keep them waiting. They've only been on hold for 8 minutes. I would love to get in there. So everybody right now, $5 if you got it. Let's do a spam $5 here for 10 How long? 30
Yeah.
seconds.
Can
Give me a
I
30-second clock. Span $5 to show everybody how much you despise John's view and are still willing to permit him to express it and hold it, just never to enact it, because that is a violation of humanist principles. That is a violation of the Constitution of the United States that I swore an oath to protect, that guarantees that John gets to be a piece of shit and I get to burn a flag. John gets to not want people to deviate from the norm and not be involved in queer stuff and not pretend to support it and secretly maybe want them all dead, but never, ever, ever gets to take that action. The Constitution is the one thing that protects our rights, and we may have lost our access to free and fair elections, or we were definitely at risk of losing our rights to those free and fair elections. That's 30-second going. There we go. $5, $5, $5, $1, $50. Thank you so much, Bobtail Trucker. I can't even read it. There's another $5 from All Things Considered, $5 from Jeffro, $5 from Avni, who also just donated 777. That's incredibly kind. All this support for recovering from religion. Lube 768, Melatonin, Ale, hey, let's hang out. We got another new snake. You got to come see. Fuzz too. It's unfair for me to talk to the people I've met in person and invite them over to the house in the middle of this, but I will. Las Vegas Pam Anonymous donated $5. Another Anonymous donated alleged money from Canada, which we are eager to take, despite the fact that I joke about it all the time. Atheist Mechanic donated $5. Anonymous donated $5. Mikey L. Albertson donated $5, and Anonymous donated $5. And on that note, Fish, that's a pretty good 30 seconds. We'll
That's a
probably
great
do
run.
some more of those in a little bit. Here we
Love to
go.
hear. Who we got?
Tyler's
Hello?
calling from Florida. Tyler's a theist, pronouns are he, him, who wants to defend his belief in God. Hi, Tyler. Which God are we talking about?
Yeah, well, the one that made the trees, man. The earth we walk on.
The God that made
That
the
one.
trees and the grass. Okay. Why don't you
Yeah,
start by telling us,
that one.
how do you know that a God made the trees and the grass?
Oh, well, he's repaired my life. He answers my prayers. He's really kind to me. He made my life pretty excellent from where it was.
Okay.
Man, I'm so glad you have an excellent life, but I'm confused. How do you know that he did that? Didn't you repair your life?
No, so he it's kind of complicated if you're not a believer. And
Okay,
like,
well,
again, I
Tyler?
completely respect
Tyler.
y'all. Huh?
Hey, Tyler, are you aware that I walked down the aisle at the age of 5 at the First Baptist Church at Gassman Baptist Church in Kansas City, and was a Christian for the first almost 30 years of my life, and was starting to be a minister. So I think I have some understanding here, but the question was, how do you know God made the trees and the grass? And you're like, because he did great works in my life. And Fish followed it up with, how do you know God did that?
Well, from my personal experience in life, I mean, it's just he did. He works through the spirit of my life, and I could tell when he's intervening, and
How does your
saved
personal
me from
experience
situations?
How can your personal experience confirm that a God over you just think it's a God and it's not? How can you tell the difference, and how could we?
I guess it would be the character and the attributes of what's helping you, the fruits, if you will, if that makes sense. You can kind of tell between
it's just
the
not
evil spirit
specific.
and the good one.
It makes sense. It's just vague. Like, I don't know how you told that it was God that helped you, but I also don't know how we could tell it was God that could help you, or that did.
Yeah, no, I can't like prove it to you, if you will, because the proof of God, some people require proof. I can't prove to you my life experience, but it's just in my life, I could just tell somebody that, the Bible and the one that made the trees has been involved in my life. That's really repaired it. But I can't like prove it to you where you'd be like, aha, I believe you. That makes sense.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Well, here's my question. You don't need to prove anything to me. Which part? What did he do to repair your life, man?
So I had my soul a long time ago was kind of into like, doing a bunch of mischievous, stupid things, doing stuff I shouldn't be doing that's causing destruction in my life. He, at my lowest point where I was about to die, he came in, and there is a noticeable change in my character, like it was magic, to where I wanted to, live in a different way. And it was a supernatural, spiritual experience that I could tell he something beyond this world changed me and how I want to live. And that's why I'm saying, like,
Ben, here's the thing.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you are out of that place and living in a different way now. That is incredible.
Yeah.
And I would like to see more people get there. I would like to see more people get there. And more people, here's why I care about this, man. I'm not trying to tell you you can't have your own story or that you can't disagree with me, right?
Yeah.
Like, you have the right to your own opinions. I want more people to have stories like you. People are not going to get there if they don't think they can do it on their own. If they think they got to wait around for some supernatural thing to fix them. Because here's the thing, man. Again, I'm not trying to tear you down, but I don't believe something else fixed you. I believe that you fixed yourself. I believe that you are a capable and strong person who made a change in your own life because you decided you were tired of how you were living and wanted to be better. Why would you take that away from yourself?
So I understand where you're coming from, and I do agree people can have a change of heart and want to do something, but the experience I had was a complete changing of my soul and who I am, and that's where my belief is. It's an experience that you personally would have to have gone through what I went through, and I can tell you my character before all of that, I definitely didn't care to do anything better at all. Something inside of me with in supernatural clicked and changed. He did something to me that, like, again, it's a personal experience I can't prove. But yeah.
Tyler, how do you know that the change in you could only have come about by a God?
Well, I can't give you proof. I could just say I know.
It's just so weird. Tyler, listen real careful. I'm not asking for me, proof is a mathematical concept. For me, there's no good reason to believe in a God or a soul or anything like that. But I'm going with the language. I'm not asking to prove. I'm asking you, how can you tell that the change that happened in you could only come from a God? How did you rule out all other possibilities?
Well, the character of who the Bible explain the character of the God. So you think your soul? You think your soul was? So you think your soul was fixed by a brutal go and slaughter all these people, keep the virgins, you can take slaves, and women aren't equal to men? You think that's the character of the person that changed your soul? Where does it say? What are you talking about?
Exodus 21, Leviticus 25, I mean, I can go on and on and on. Are you just not familiar with the Bible?
That's the Old Testament. He ain't like that anymore.
Oh, so he used to be a prick and now he's not?
Well, I mean, if you're a God of the world and, you're creating an existence, I mean, you're going to, he has the authority to do as he wants. And
that's not what I asked.
Us down here.
That's not what I asked, but I appreciate the excuse. That's not what I asked, but I appreciate the excuse. In the New Testament, see, in the Old Testament, there was no eternal torment or punishment. In the New Testament adds eternal torment and punishment. Was he always like that, or did he change to become worse?
Well, not everybody it's not really an eternal punishment. It's a separation from him.
So
not everybody's going to be
you believe in annihilation
punished.
Theory, right? That you believe in annihilation theory, that it, like, if I die without being saved, I'm just going to be annihilated, right?
No, I believe you get separated from existing with him when the time of Jesus happens in the judgment.
How is that possible?
Separated.
Isn't God everywhere?
Well, yeah, he's omnipresent. He's everywhere.
So that's where annihilation theory comes from, that if God is everywhere, then the only separation from God is non-existence.
Yeah, no, I get that. It's just I can't speak on it because the Bible doesn't really teach it, so I can't really say anything about it.
And yet you somehow believe it.
No, I don't believe it. There's a separation. Now, where they go after the separation, I don't know. The Bible talks about torment gnashing and weeping
Doesn't
of
it?
teeth.
Doesn't
which
it also say there's
I
going to
know.
be much wailing and gnashing of teeth?
Yeah, well, I mean, the Bible explains that there's
Does that
different
happen in
levels of
separation or in hell?
punishment, if you will.
Is there a hell? Is there a hell?
Yes, yes.
How do you know?
Well, Jesus spoke of it.
How do you know Jesus spoke of it?
The Bible it tells us.
So how do you know the Bible's correct in what it says Jesus supposedly said?
My belief. It's just this is my belief. So like just like what you
and so
believe, I'm
if
not going to
somebody
tell
else
you
has,
you're wrong. But like,
no, I'll tell you you're wrong. I have no problem telling you that you don't have the evidential warrant to believe it. Not that not that the claim's actually valid. So if somebody, for example, is a Muslim because they believe the Quran, that's just their belief, just the same as yours. But only one of those two could actually be true, right?
yeah, well, the Quran and the Allah and the God of Islam contradicts Jesus. Muhammad contradicts. I can tell you that based on the fruits of Islam, they mirror more of Satan than they do
Okay.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I don't even
I
want to
really
get
don't
into
need
that.
your
It's a whole
garbage
topic.
assassination. I don't need your garbage assassination of things that you don't know. The thing is, when we asked why you believe it, you're just like, oh, it's just my belief. And I'm like, but a Muslim who you think is closer to Satan could also make that same justification. So how does an outsider
no,
decide? I'm sorry, I'm still talking. How does an outsider decide if you're defending Christianity with it's just my belief, and some other outsider they're defending Islam because it's just their belief? How can an outsider decide which of you is most likely correct?
It's the fruits of Jesus versus
Say
the
fruits one more
of
time and
Muhammad.
I will mute you. I need specifics.
As in, like, why Islam is false versus Christianity?
No, you
Is that what
can't
you're
use
asking?
Christianity to say Islam's false because you're then allowing them to say Christianity's false or that Christianity's false because Islam's true.
Well, it's the characteristics and the teachings of each religion that you can
Okay.
notice which one's the true one.
So the
which one isn't.
characteristics of the teachings of the Bible allow for substitutionary atonement, that you are undeserving of forgiveness until God gets a blood sacrifice, right?
Yeah, are you talking about the sacrifice of Jesus?
I'm talking about blood sacrifice. That's how it starts in the Old Testament, and that's what Jesus was in the New Testament, right?
Yeah. Back in the day, God he required sacrifice. I don't understand why.
He still.
I don't know why.
Well,
I'm not an expert
so
on that.
you don't know why God liked the smell of barbecue, because that's what the Bible says.
Oh, says that? I don't know where.
Why couldn't God forgive people without a blood sacrifice?
Because
I'm
there's
muted.
a price to forgiveness. It's all complicated to the point where many people have questions, and forgiveness requires a price. And the sacrifice of Jesus.
Well, Tyler, there's a price
of,
for my forgiveness too, but it's not a blood sacrifice. Like there is, we haven't yet heard how somebody like us, who's got two different books, neither of which we really believe the story, should believe the Bible over the Quran. What's the reason?
What Muhammad said, and again, I'm not going to say fruits, but it's what Islam spawns versus what Christianity spawns. And I understand your criticisms of other Christians, especially about the gay stuff. Like I completely get that, but just from my life experience, I can personally tell the difference between what Islam brings and what Christianity brings if you practice them, in their fullness. Christianity brings more life. Islam brings more destruction and not life. I can't think of a better word.
But see, here's
belief,
the thing.
Man.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that, and I think that's not true. I think there are good Christians and bad Christians. I think there are good Muslims and bad Muslims. I think there are good atheists and bad atheists. You are the person that you are because of the things that you do, not because of the book you read. And I man, I know you've met bad Christians before. I'll say I've met bad atheists. Like, you can't sit
Yeah.
here and tell me you think every single Christian is a good person.
No, there's a lot of Christians out there that just they say they're Christian but aren't.
So, and you also, but they read the book, right? And they believe the book, but they're still not good. Okay, let's keep going. You also, I don't think you would agree with the statement that every Muslim is a bad person.
No. Muslims.
I
Muslim
didn't think so.
isn't
I
a
didn't think
bad
so.
person.
Well, so we agree there are good Christians and bad Christians, good Muslims and bad Muslims. As an atheist, I'll say there are good atheists and bad atheists. So again, we come back to the question, because now you've disproved your own argument, right? How, if people can be good or bad, irrespective, because you said, and this is, I asked you, how do I, as somebody who doesn't believe in either of these books, know which one is the right one? And you said that the behavior of Christians is better as a result of Christianity. And I said, whoa, hold on a second. People are good or bad,
answer it. Yeah,
regardless of what they believe, and you agreed with it. Yeah. Okay, so talk to me.
Okay, so if you practice Christianity in its fullness of how Jesus would like you to be as a child of God, the character of that person is going to bring more life to the world than if somebody who practices the full teachings of Islam from Muhammad. If you practice the full teachings of Muhammad and Islam, it's going to bring more violence, destruction, and all sorts of chaos. And the bad Christians aren't the ones who are practicing it correctly, or obeying and believing in Jesus the way he wants us, to live in obedience. They simply just believe.
I'm sorry, man.
Look, they're Christian.
I'm not a religious scholar, but there are good teachings and bad teachings in all of these books, from what I've read. You can't cherry pick the teachings you like out of your own book, and there are certainly good things in the Bible, and there are good things in the Quran, and a lot of them are the same things, right? That's the thing. I'm a humanist, right? And the truth is, a lot of the things we believe in as humanists, like you should do unto other people as they do unto you, are common to every single major religion. The truth is that across time and history and belief systems, everyone believes that you should be decent to people. And you can emphasize the parts of your religion that say that and the parts of other people's religions that say different things. Or I can do the character assassination the opposite way by cherry picking the nice quotes out of the Quran and talking about God sending people to die in floods. Or we can just agree that you are a good person if you act like a good person, and it doesn't matter what book you read.
So what's the bad teachings you believe in Christianity, or what you've heard?
There's a ton of them, in addition to the opposition to homosexuality. I think the misogyny directed at women, the fact that they're not equal. I think Jesus himself, in the near the beginning of the Sermon on the Mount, sets a really bad standard for divorce, because Jesus is only permits divorce in the case of fornication. Do you think that's a good thing?
Yeah.
You do?
Well, I mean, yes and no. Relationships and how he created us are really complicated, and his design and what
this is
he
really
originally
simple.
designed.
This is no. I'm sorry. I'm not going to let you pretend. I'm not going to let you pretend this is complicated in order to avoid answering the question. Two people consent and agree to a partnership. According to Jesus, the only justification for ending that is fornication. I'm asking you if you think that law is right.
Yeah, I mean, you should work it out until death do us part. You should always work it out.
So people in an abusive relationship who are getting the shit beat out of them every day should be forced to remain together and work it out. That's what you're saying.
Oh no, dude!
No. That's what you're saying.
Coming from, it's just back in the day.
Jesus says the only justification for divorce is infidelity, and you agreed with that. Now, are you saying Jesus is wrong?
No, I'm not saying he's wrong. He just didn't touch on. I
Well,
don't think
why
back
not?
in
Hold
the
on.
day
No,
when
no,
he
Why
no.
said
not?
all
He
that.
did touch on it, Tyler. Tyler, he did touch on it. Did you not hear me say that he said the only justification for divorce? That means out of that you're pretending that the all-knowing, all-powerful divine being, when he come down and took human form, managed to say that the only permissible reason for X is fornication and did not bother to think of or mention anything else? Is Jesus
Well, if he was
stupid?
here now, if he was here now and you got a man beating on his wife constantly and consistently, he would say it's justified for that relationship to end.
Yeah,
But Tyler,
I
here's my
appreciate-
problem, man.
I
Here's my
appreciate the
problem.
fact that you're trying to make excuses for Jesus, but it won't work.
You clearly
I'm not
think
making
that
excuses.
people shouldn't stay
You
in
are.
abusive relationships, man. Obviously, this is what you think because it's what any sane person thinks. My problem with Christianity is it makes it harder for you to say that Jesus is wrong when that simple statement is very clearly wrong to you in your own mind. Like, you don't believe. You just told us you don't believe that infidelity is the only reason someone should leave a marriage. You believe as you're and tell me if I'm wrong, but you believe people should leave a marriage if they're getting physically abused. That's not what Jesus said.
Yes.
You can't say Jesus is
I know,
wrong. Why
but
not?
That was 2,000 years ago. I mean, nowadays he would probably
I'm
have
sorry.
added that
No,
in.
okay,
Probably wasn't.
but then
Kyler, did Jesus know that we were going to be discussing this when he said it 2,000 years ago?
I don't know. Maybe
You don't
2,000
know,
years
so you don't
later
think
he might
Jesus-
change.
You
and
don't
add
think
some
Jesus?
stuff.
You don't think Jesus knows the future?
I mean, he does, yeah.
So did he know this
Maybe not,
conversation
like,
was going to happen?
Maybe, maybe not. I don't know exactly how
My
much he
God,
knows in the future.
Okay, I should just stop because,
I'm not him. I don't know if he would know or not. I'm just saying.
and yet
Look, if he was
curiously,
alive
and yet
nowadays, he'd
curiously,
probably
and yet
add that.
curiously, even though you said you're not him and you don't know what he would do, you just made excuses for him, suggesting if he were here today, instead of saying that fornication's the only way, he would also add to that. So it's convenient for you to pretend you know what Jesus would say now in order to rehabilitate the actual words we have of Jesus. So who should I listen to? You or the words attributed in, or the words recorded in the Bible?
Well, the words of the Bible were from a long time ago. Just as he
I know
just
when
as
they
he
were
said,
fucking from. This is one of my areas of study for decades. It doesn't matter when they were from. If God knows all and knew all then, why did God get it wrong? And why does he need you to come in and pretend like he'd get it right if he bothered to show the fuck up today?
Well, just like he changed the law of Moses after a certain amount of
No,
time.
he didn't.
When
No,
he
he
laid
didn't.
down,
No, he didn't. The Bible literally says
he
not a
did.
jot or tittle of the law will change until all has come to pass.
All I'm saying is it's been 2,000 years. If beating women was a problem
give
back
it a
then,
break.
he would have said that, but I don't think it was back then, so he didn't need to address it.
Wait,
Well,
you don't think
here's
people
the
were getting
thing,
beaten back
Tyler.
then?
Not how they are nowadays. I think people were more clean, pure. There was probably maybe like 2 men that possibly was beating women. I don't think people back
You are
then
not
were how they are
serious.
now.
You are not serious. I believe Tyler. I'm going to stop now, but I'm going to let Fish talk to you as much as he wants until somebody shuts you down, because I now believe you're a lying fraud, and that's not fair to you.
How am I
for me to
lying?
hang on, let me finish. Just shut the fuck up for a second. Let me finish. I'm saying it's
Why are you
not
so
fair to you.
insulting?
Please stop talking
You're
so
like
that I can
insulting
explain.
me.
Yes, I'm insulting you because I think you're a lying, fraudulent piece of crap. And this is what I'm
You
saying.
think.
It's completely unfair of me to think that, not knowing you based only on what's happened here. And I'm saddling you with the baggage of 20 years of doing this and knowing every one of these subjects about 10 times better than you ever have in a book that you probably have never read and don't seem to understand. It is completely unfair of me to do that to you. And so I'm going to stop doing that. I'm going to back off. I'm going to let you have a conversation with Fish, because that was actually going somewhere. And every time I try to interrupt, all it does is short circuit everything and get you to flail around. I don't want you to do that. I'd like you to get some help. I'm not the guy to help you.
You're giving
so I'm
me a
backing off.
question. You're giving
My
me a
God,
question where you have
my
to
God, literally in the last
time.
shut your mouth. Literally in the last 3 words where I'm apologizing and backing off, you prove me right. What the fuck? I'm muted
in your
now.
mind. Holy crap,
Let's get
man.
another 777 in here. Tyler, here's the thing. Why should I trust that a religion that makes people equivocate on whether or not that makes it harder to answer the question, is it okay to beat your wife, is something I should follow?
It's not okay to beat your wife.
I know it's not okay to beat your wife, and you know it's not okay to beat your wife, but Matt said that Jesus said the only reason to leave a marriage is because of fornication, and it took you you could not say that he was wrong.
It's a trap question. I'm wrong no matter what
Dude,
I say. There's not a right answer that would satisfy you.
No, man, it's not.
So
It's not a trap question. You are right. You and I are both right. It is right for somebody who is in an abusive marriage to leave. The Bible says otherwise. My problem with the Bible is it says things like that, and my problem with Christianity is that it encourages people to see the Bible as the inalienably correct word of God when it says things like that are wrong. I don't have a problem with love thy neighbor. I don't believe in the beginning God created the heaven and earth and whatever, but I don't have a problem if you believe that. I have a problem with the idea that the only acceptable reason to leave a marriage is adultery, and I have a problem that it made you take a second to think about that, despite the fact that you and I clearly believe the correct answer, which is that if someone is getting abused, they should leave. How is that productive? Sorry, man, I'll let you talk.
No, you're good, dude. I'm trying to think of an answer that would satisfy you, because I do understand your point of view. I'm not, I completely understand it, but I can't give you an answer that's going to satisfy you without you calling me a liar or you saying Jesus was wrong. In a way, it's a trap question without a correct answer that would satisfy you.
Tyler, I haven't called you a liar. And also, why is Jesus is wrong? Like, we just agreed he's wrong about adultery, right? And I can certainly say he was right about loving your neighbor. He was right about some things and wrong about some things, like all of us are. And I think the problem is about holding any person. I don't think anybody should hold me up or Matt up or you up or anybody up as an infallible person whose word is in unerring truth and must be followed. I think that is dangerous. That's what I think, man. Do you agree or disagree?
Well, I'll just say this about that whole question. If he was down here in person today, he would tell you if a man is beating on his wife consistently and constantly, it would justify legal means to end that relationship, because that wouldn't be right.
Sure, man.
But when he said that back in the day, it probably wasn't a problem or something that he was, thinking of or was trying to get, because you can make a whole list if you add something like that. It's just
here's the thing, Tyler. I believe that you believe that. I believe that you are sincere in believing that. I don't think, to me it doesn't make sense because I don't think Jesus could appear today, but I believe that is what you believe and that is your truth. But here's the thing.
Yeah, no, we're in two different worlds.
That's not what he said. That's not what he said. So why are we then saying that this book, where he says the thing we both agree is wrong, is the thing that is going to lead people to a better life? And here is again where I believe that it was you. It was you who made your life better, not someone else. And I think it makes the world better when we say it is us who have the responsibility to make our lives better, not looking back into the past to someone who was right some of the time and wrong some of the time and saying they were right all the time when that's not true.
I mean, you can believe that. It's just, I can tell you for a fact he's involved in my life. It's like I said, I can't prove it to you, but I mean, I can tell he was, and I could tell he did everything for me.
Look, man, I
It's a
am
personal
glad
experience.
that these great things have happened to you in your life. I've been lucky in my life too. I think that the source of that luck was other people helping me along. And I know that because I pay attention to the people who have made a contribution in my life, and I practice gratitude towards them. That's why I think it was other
Yeah.
people, because I've noticed the way my parents care for me and my friends show up for me and my mentors have worked with me. What is it that has made you believe that it was God having that role in your life?
I got a new soul. I'm different.
What do you
I
mean a
didn't
new
choose
soul?
it. He changed me. Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
I got a whole new soul.
I don't understand. Okay, let's talk about the soul. At the risk of making Matt really mad, let's talk about the soul. How do you know?
So I had an instant, without me thinking, hey, I need to change my life. I had a supernatural experience where I could tell it was, it was God, and he changed something inside of me to want me to do better. Because it was something I experienced that you would have to go through.
Well, hold on. I mean,
and
I have had experiences, Tyler, where I have felt this powerful sense of transcendence. I don't think that something put that in me, but there have definitely been times where, like, when I was in a hot spring in Taos, or when I was in at a Fifth Dimension concert in Oakland, right? Like, there have been times in my life where I'm like, wow, I am having this full body, amazing, beautiful experience. But I didn't, in that moment, I wasn't like, oh, this is God. I'm like, I'm grateful to the people who fought for this land to be protected. I'm grateful for the people who are making this music that is so beautiful to me. What made you think, in whatever experience, and tell me about that experience, and what made you think it was God in that moment?
Well, I don't know how to specifically explain it to you. So before it all happened, I was only into doing drugs, doing all sorts of bad stuff, things I shouldn't be doing. I had zero desire to want to do anything right. I had zero desire to, act appropriate in my life. Then something supernatural of divine intervention happened, and it completely changed my character to now I have this absolute love for who Jesus is in the Bible. I could see beauty in our Creator's design and what he wants. And it changed my will and who I want to be. It changed me to want to be more in line with the will of Jesus and his Father in the Bible. It was a complete change it's impossible where I didn't get up and say, I want to be different. I'm going to change. It was a genuine, supernatural, divine experience.
Here's the thing, man. We've studied. So I used to study developmental psychology, right? That was part of what made me a humanist. We know a lot about how the human brain works. We know a lot about how people make the choices they make and make changes in their lives. You cannot make somebody want something different for their life. And you know this because you live in the world, right? Like, you can't, I don't know, you in a relationship?
No, I'm single.
Okay. If you when you get in a relationship, you're going to find real quick, you can't make somebody want something they don't want. They have to want it for themselves. Yep. I don't think anyone, like, I believe you wanted that for yourself at the end of the day, and you had a moment where you committed to doing it. Here's a question. How do you know that's not true? Could it be true that you had a moment where you decided you wanted your life to be different?
I can't really explain it to you unless you had the same experience as me, because again, experience. I don't know how to explain it to you. I can't really give an answer.
What makes you feel that way? It may or it may not. Like, look, you're allowed to have a different opinion than me, man. I'm trying to understand. What was the thing about that experience that made you feel like it came from outside of yourself?
It's the wild supernatural stuff, and then on top of that, I then started to notice the devil trying to come into my life. You said
supernatural stuff. You said supernatural stuff a couple times. I feel like you're referring to something that happened. What was the thing that made you be like, no, There's no way this could be me deciding I want my life to be different. This was God at work. What was that?
So I could tell a difference between a dream and him speaking to me. And
He spoke to
the
you.
things I experienced, yes, he spoke to me, and like not in a dream sense, but just at certain times he spoke to me in a way. I'm not somebody that hallucinates. I don't make things up. I'm not delusional. I'm a very logical, factual person. I'm very logical. I don't hallucinate. I don't say 2 + 2 is 5, and I don't tell you the trees are red because I think they're red. I had an experience that I could tell was beyond this world. That what was going on was from the one who made everything. And again, it's a personal experience.
Tyler, is it fair to say you had an experience that was like nothing you had ever experienced before? Like this you live your life in a certain way, you see the world, and this thing happens, and it's like, whoa, this has never happened to me before. Now here's the thing, man. You were doing a lot of drugs around that time, right?
No.
No? I'm sorry, that was what you told me before.
I was doing drugs, but I wasn't doing things that would cause hallucinations, or I wasn't doing things that would cause me to be out of my mind. You know
what I'm getting at, man, because I'm trying to say is, how are you certain? How do you know for sure? How do you know for sure? For instance, you didn't take something that was laced with something, or you did have a dream, and you're not really good at telling what your dreams are. Again, I'm not.
It happened when I wasn't
what is it that makes you so certain
on stuff? So I was at this time when it was right out of high school, you know, all that. I've been doing drugs for a little bit. I know what it's like when I do drugs, yada, yada, yada. The things that happened to me, it happened when I wasn't doing the drug or drugs at the time. And it was also an experience that I could tell this is not a drug causing this, because I was doing drugs for a long time at that point. I had the same experience. And it's just, it didn't happen when I was doing drugs. And I could just tell it's a faith in a belief. This is where the faith and belief beyond proof comes into play. And
sure, man.
It's something you can't really prove.
No, I hear you. You're very clear you don't have proof for this, and that you believe it on faith. I don't. I guess my question is, so you believe it because something happened to you that had never happened before, and your feeling was that you are being spoken to by God, and that convinced you to change your life.
Yeah, I had an experience that changed my will to more align with the will of. If you study the Bible enough, you could tell there's a specific type of life and will that the Father has for us. And the experience I had was like a complete 180 and realignment to his will. And it took, I didn't change perfectly instantly, but I could tell there was a change in me that started to align with the will of Jesus and his Father.
Well, but here's the thing,
I don't know if that helps.
I understand that your experience of your belief about God is that he has the life he wants you to live, that is, you know, you're happy and you're not doing drugs and you're a productive person. That's also the life everyone in this world wants you to live, man. That's the life your parents want. That's the life your friends want. That's the life your family want. That's the life I want for you. At a certain point, what makes you think it wasn't just you getting the message from everyone else in your life that it was time to turn your life around?
I wasn't around people that was going to turn my life around. I just wasn't. Yeah. And I'll tell you, my will goes a little bit farther than what most people like. I've completely decided to not do anything sexual, as in like sanctifying my flesh from every sexual desired immorality.
Good.
There's different things, man. All I can say is.
That's your business, but I feel sorry for you.
Is from God.
Okay.
It's an experience that unless you go through it, you're probably not going to believe it.
I mean, like here's the thing, man. Okay, but then what you've not been able to do here is demonstrate anything other than This is my own subjective belief of my own personal experience where I experienced something that I'd never felt before, and I believe it to be God. Okay, fine. Then how does that give you the ability to say this is more true than Islam?
Well, the characteristics of what if you fully practice
No,
Islam.
okay. No, man. I thought we would go somewhere different, man. But we can't go back to the characteristics of, because again, you and I already agreed. Good Christians and bad Christians, good Muslims and bad Muslims, good atheists and bad atheists. Like there is no religion, there is no holy book that makes you a good person by reading it. That is not true.
Well, if you practice Islam the way Muhammad says you should versus practicing Christianity the way
if you practice
Jesus
Christianity, the way Jesus said you should, you'd tell women to stay in abusive marriages, but you and I both agree that's not right.
No, that's
what he said.
That's the trap question. That's the answer you're never going to get a satisfactory answer for. It's not a trap question.
It's not. You said if you practice Christianity the way Jesus said you should. Matt pointed out a thing he said that you and I both agree was wrong. The truth is, the point I'm trying to get you to is there are good and bad moral teachings in all religions. 777. All right.
I'm back.
All right, we got tired of Tyler, huh, Matt?
Here's the only no. Somebody donated 777 and we dumped Tyler. I wasn't going to dump Tyler because I actually had follow-up questions, and there aren't other callers waiting.
Can I take over for a second?
Yes.
Thank you. We're going to do a small dollar dono drive. Okay, so that's what's going to happen right now because we're at like $1,300 shy of 5,000 for this episode, and I think we can blow past that very easily with a small dono drive. So what we're going to do...
Oh, let's go. I'm getting my phone out.
Is starting at, let's say it's 9:03 Central Time right now. So let's say at 9:05 Central Time, you guys are going to send your donations. So if you go to the little heart thing at the bottom of chat that looks like two hands holding each other in the shape of a heart, you can get a dono ready, get them all prepped up, but don't send them. Wait until 9:05, okay? $1, $2, $3, whatever you can give. If you can forego a cup of coffee for the week or anything like that to help support RFR, using YouTube's giving feature, which is what this dono drive is, 100% of those profits go to RFR. So YouTube doesn't take a cut. We don't take a cut. It goes directly to RFR. There's no need for us to transfer the money. It's full transparency. So get those donos ready. Don't send them yet. Okay, I'm going to keep
queued up.
That's right. I'm going to keep an eye on, let me go to time.is so I can keep an eye on the exact time so we can get ready. I want you to get those donos ready, and I want to flood the donos. I want to see as many as you can. We are so close to blowing past 5,000 for the full night of donos, and I think you guys can absolutely demolish that goal. So...
And Arden, I got to say, last September, I went and I gave a talk at Recovering from Religion's Fall Retreat. And I met person after person after person who was like, I felt trapped in religion. I felt alone. I felt like I was stuck in an abusive community. And y'all gave me the courage to leave and changed my life. That's what this donation makes happen.
All right, we got 5 seconds. When it hits 9:05 or whatever your time zone is. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Go. Flood those donos. I want to see so many donos come into the chat.
All right,
while that's actually happening, I'm bumping Tyler back to the thing. Tyler, I apologize. We had to hang up on you. We're in the middle of a fundraiser and someone donated $777. Okay, I'm sorry. Would you just shut up and listen? Never mind. I'm not giving you an explanation. I'm trying to do the fucking kind thing, and you couldn't even let me finish the sentence while we're trying to raise money. So here we go, people. Get those short donations in. There is no one who needs recovering from religion and the help of the counseling and the help of being able to call in and talk to somebody more than Tyler, who can't let you finish a sentence, who can't even let you apologize, who can't let you back off, who thinks that there's nothing but personal experience. Claims of the supernatural abound. We hear them all the time, and there's never been any confirmation of anything attributed to the supernatural. There's never been any demonstration of any way to detect or confirm that the supernatural exists or that it interacts with reality. It is untestable, it's unfalsifiable. And yet Tyler fancies himself a reliable detector of the supernatural, and yet can't demonstrate it to anyone. I would have loved to find out, Tyler, how is it possible for you to be a supernatural detector that cannot demonstrate your accuracy to anyone? Personal experience is not a path to truth. Personal experience is when you experience something, then you need to find out what it is. You need to figure out, hey, what's the best explanation for this? My life changed. Was it something supernatural or natural? Was it something psychological or spiritual? Was it something from a god or from a devil or from me? Is the right answer, like it almost always is to begin with, I don't know. So Tyler, somebody paid to cut you off. No, don't call back in and say you can be quiet. Let me back in.
We're $300 off. Keep going.
There was a $400 donation right there.
Those are Norwegian dollars. Those don't count, or they count, but they're not worth. They're not $300. We love you, Norwegian, Norway. Sorry, I can't think.
So Tyler, don't keep calling back in. Someone paid $777 to the charity donation we're raising money for, so that you are done for today. We will not be giving you any more airtime. We will not be speaking to you anymore today. I would recommend that you reach out to Recovering from Religion, the organization that we're raising funds for, and see if they can help you deal with the struggles you're having, because you called in to defend your belief and did absolutely nothing to defend it. Didn't even suggest that it was possible to defend it. In order to defend your belief, you're going to have to show how you can tell that something is supernatural, how you can tell what the cause of something is, how you can demonstrate that, in fact, there is a God. Because until then, what you've described is indistinguishable to the rest of us from delusion. And if we were put in a position of, do we consider this person delusional, or do we consider this person rational and advocating for something we have good reason to believe, we would have to, for now, put you in the, because you offered nothing, no matter how many attempts we gave, other than its personal experience and fruits and everything else. And all of those things that you said about the fruits or the character is all based on a flawed presupposition on your part, or two of them, actually. One is that you know the character of God enough to determine it, and two, that you're right about that. Those are why you think you can tell the difference, but you haven't demonstrated that the foundational things are true. So no, I'm not putting you back on, not because I don't want to. I actually had other questions for you, but the people watching donated to not have you on. So call back another day, but not today.
You guys were $200 away from 5,000 for the night. Please keep them rolling in. I was going to set some time parameters for us, but what's his name tried to call back in and it started a whole thing. So you guys have like another minute left to get an extra $200. Yes, but that we started this show at $50,324. So with another $200, we will be at 5,000 raised over the course of the show.
Man, you guys are going to make me donate again, aren't you?
I did already just now.
See, I did 100 at the top. I did another 5 in our blitz. I'm doing another 5 right now. Come on, let's push it up.
Liberty and Billy Sipes and the anonymous dono. Thank you guys so much. Oh, that was you on the
I was the anonymous. I don't care.
That's $5,000 for the course of the stream. Thank you guys so much.
We did it. I love it.
Awesome. But also, we're out of callers.
I think 5,000 is a good mark if you want to call it there. Since we're not doing supers, we're also at 3 hours. So that's the normal length of the show.
It's 3 hours. We got $5,000. There's a lot coming up. So first of all, Arden, do you have details on the schedule for this weekend that you can get ready? I want to give Fish a couple more minutes because, we had calls and everything else. Because right now, this week, we're supporting Recovering from Religion, which is a critical organization that genuinely helps people. Instead of just sitting around talking like I do, RFR has volunteers and member groups in many places where you can go either online, in some cases in person, to interact with their counselors and get the help that you're looking for. And they're not going to try to make you an atheist. They're not going to debate with you or argue with you. They're probably not even going to ask you anything more than maybe what makes you think that, without necessarily pushing back. These are the people whose job it is to just answer the questions and be there for you as you deal with a possible deconstruction from a religion or not. If you wind up a stronger believer, it'll break my heart, but at least you're one of the people that interacted and thought and asked for help, and that the help was there. And if you're not somebody who's ever going to reach out to recover from religion, whether you're religious or not, I hope you recognize that somebody's going to, and that this is a resource that's needed. When I was a fundamentalist Christian, I would have still supported the concept behind recovering from religion, because mine, while it was in my head the right religion, wasn't the only religion. And even people in my correct religion were struggling with things that needed help. Recovering from religion isn't an atheist organization. It is a secular run organization that deals with religions of all type and people in all kinds of places. It's why they're partnered and associated with the Secular Therapy Project, so that people can get science-based help from qualified individuals instead of having to go to spiritual leaders and life coaches and gurus.
And I'm excited to see that number ticking up. I've got a lot of love for RFR. We're proud to partner with them at the American Humanist Association. And all I've heard from people who've interacted with it are folks who felt that they didn't want to be in religion anymore, but they had a deep sense of shame or fear of hell or worry that they were going to lose their whole community. And I've met a lot of people who ended up in a healthier place and realized that they could safely be who they are and feel that it saved their lives. And I also know, and I think what Matt's saying is important, if somebody comes to them and is questioning their religion, they're not going to try and talk you out of being religious. You can go back and that's okay. The goal is to make people live the lives that they want to live. And if they're ready to leave religion, feel a sense of safety in that. It's a good thing. And I said it before and I'll say it again. I have so much respect for RFR because they do all this with one staff person. They have so many volunteers. They use volunteers. They use technology to help serve thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And they do it without having really expensive infrastructure and paying a bunch of people. You are making an incredible investment when you support RFR. That's why I was glad to donate tonight, and glad for all the work that we do with Gail and Daryl, who are really special people. I know they've been on here before, right, Matt?
Yes. And some of them beyond this weekend.
That's really cool. And that's right. I hope people come back and tune in for the big fundraiser this weekend, where you guys are going to cross 80K, maybe 100K, maybe 120K. I feel like you guys are going to push it all the way up.
We'll see. Arden, have you got details?
Okay, so the main event for the fundraiser is going to be on Saturday, starting at noon. Oh, sorry, Maple decided to make a lot of noise right when I started there. But before that, Friday at 8 p.m. Central Time, we're going to be doing a Golden Mic event. And it's new and improved now. Jimmy's no longer hosting. Javon's taking his place. So, all the Jimmy go fuck yourselves in the chat, we can all agree that's an improvement. Just kidding. I love you, Jimmy. So we'll be doing another Golden Mic event to help raise money. And then Saturday, starting at noon, we'll be doing a full-length charity event, just like we do every year, with hour-long time slots full of games and interesting stuff. Anyone who's loved watching Ratioed over on Jovan's channel with, I've been on there, Jimmy and Matt and Luxander and Josie and a number of different people, Dalton the Bible Guy, have been on there. We're going to be doing a little version of that game for one of those hours. So many fun events and opportunities for you to raise a ton of money for RFR. And I just want to remind you guys again, while normally when you send super chats, YouTube takes a 30% cut, and then we get ours. with this feature that YouTube does, where we're donating to a fundraiser, the fundraiser gets 100% of those funds. YouTube does not take any of that. And again, it goes directly to the organization. So there's no matter of like handling the money and transparency concerns or anything like that. RFR gets that money directly. So please, please, please consider donating. There's so many cool events. It's going to be a ton of fun. You're going to see all your favorite faces from the line. And we're going to raise a lot of money for an amazing charity that is needed now more than ever.
Hell yeah.
I just heard a notification noise and I have no idea.
I think
don't
my
recognize
phone
the
buzzed
sound
while
when
I
it
was
works.
doing that.
Oh, okay. That might be it. So anyway, there's going to be a lot of stuff going on, a lot of opportunities for donation. Thanks everybody for tuning in tonight. Thanks Fish for joining me. Everybody loved you and they're like, when can we get Fish back? And I'm like, it's going to depend on his schedule, but yes, Fish can come back and hang out with us pretty much any time. And I imagine you will see him many more times in the future.
I can't wait. Look, fighting the Christian right keeps me busy, but it is a good time to come back and hang out with y'all. So I'm looking forward to doing it. And thank you, Matt, for having me. It was fun. It was an experience to do this with you. I had a ton of fun.
It's wild. And tonight was very unusual. Not only was there a fundraiser, but we were only getting, like, there was only one call in the queue at any given time. There was nobody waiting.
Quiet.
So it was like, oh, we're going to keep going.
Well, that's
Luckily, when they donated 777, it came through. Anyway,
I'll say to
patreon.com/call
folks,
the line. And that ends it.
I love it.